Hello and welcome to the Live Reality Game Podcast. My name is Stephen Stewart, and I'm excited today for more Surviving Reelfoot First Fire coverage. And joining us today is the person who will give us the definitive account of the merge, who I think his blind set also, dare I say, defined the merge. We have Isiah. How are you doing, Isiah?
I'm great. How are you, Stephen?
I am doing well. I'm grateful that you've had so much patience with me, and I'm very excited for this interview just because I think, for better or worse, your photo was one of the key moments of the merge itself.
Yeah, I definitely probably agree. Definitive moment for me, especially. And yeah, no, when we get to that point, I'm excited to kind of. I feel like that whole round, a lot happened that could have maybe not happened, other than my vote out. That could have maybe shifted some things, but we'll get there.
Okay. Well, how have you been doing since Reelfoot? I know you've been pretty busy. You were one of, I think, 2 or 3 people who ran the live feeds for Survival Challenge. So I got to see a bit of you doing that as well as your nightly recaps. How else have you been doing?
I've been good. Yeah. I feel like I've just tried to adjust back to real life. I hadn't played a game since 2023, so it had been almost a 2-year hiatus of me playing a game, and I forgot how much of a toll it can take on you emotionally and mentally, and kind of jumping back into real life was, at least the first maybe 2 weeks, was really rough because I kind of just went back to work, and as a performer at a theme park, it's a lot of high energy right off the bat. So having to kind of adjust my brain back to that life was difficult at first, but it was good. I was met with a lot of support from my friends and my loved ones who were watching, which really helped. And yeah, it was good. It was a good time.
Yeah, so you played Survival Challenge 2022. You played Can You Survive in 2023.
Yes.
Comparing the post game for Reelfoot versus those, was this about on par? Was it getting easier to kind of process and come off of the game, or this game was so much longer? Because you were there full set. You were there 7 days.
6 days.
6 days. Okay, you were the end of day 6. Close to the end of day 6.
Yeah. Yeah. No. The preparation for this game was definitely different. I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself. Especially because I had taken that hiatus, to do better than I had done previously, even though the best I've done was Survival Challenge. I mean, to the final.
I mean, making it to the finals is hard to beat.
Right. But so for me, it was okay, we got to get to that point, right? I felt like it was a new me. I've gone through a lot personally in my real life, and I felt like I was kind of a rebranded Isiah in a way. And I kind of wanted to see what this version of me was going to be like in that environment. The preparation, I wanted to be as the most prepared as possible, but I will say life definitely got in the way. And I didn't get to check off every little thing on my preparation list as I wanted to. I wanted to practice making fire again. Didn't get the chance to do that. I wanted to work out more. All I really got to do was walk a little bit more. And walking is mainly what I do for my job on a daily basis. So that wasn't really a change there. I think more so it was just preparing myself mentally of okay, you're going to put yourself in this environment. It's the longest game you've ever played. It is known as one of the toughest games you've ever played. Just go out there and do what you do best, and try to rock it as hard as possible. So that was really my preparation, just more internal preparation rather than external.
Going off the rebranding, how were you looking to present yourself differently, or what were you kind of expecting? What did you want to do differently coming to the game than your 2 prior games?
Right. Yeah. I think I remember telling myself and telling my friends who knew that I was playing, that I wanted to my plan was to go into this game being a little bit more deceiving, maybe have a villain arc, or try to do something like that, because I always tend to play these games as a hero and as someone who it's so hard for me to not just be myself around people. I love getting to know people. I feel like that's why I'm in the theme park industry and in the performing industry. That's just what we do. We make interactions with random people that we might never most likely ever see again in our lives for a split 20 seconds, in parades and stuff like that. So that's kind of just what I do for a living. So I just enjoy doing it. And that's exactly what happened. I went in being I'm going to be different, and I'm going to have this persona, and people are not going to expect this side of Isiah. No, as soon as I got on the mat and I started talking to my tribe, it was a done deal. Our tribe was really cool, and I loved everyone, and I just wanted to be. It felt disingenuine to be again this persona, and I can't right now. At least maybe in the future I'll be able to kind of flick that switch on in my brain, but I couldn't do it. I just had to be Isiah.
So, did you feel like you played villainous, or do you still feel like?
I definitely played a little bit more. I would say there were things that I did in this game that were there were things that I probably wouldn't have done 2-3 years ago. The Oscar award-winning performance that I put on during one of the tribal councils, and the looking through Rob's bag at one point. I never thought that I would be someone who would do that, but I seized my opportunity for a little bit of drama. I wish there was a camera at that point. It felt like I was actually on Survivor. I could that moment, when they are filming someone going through a bag and like watching the person sleeping like 10 feet away. Like I felt like that intensity of like, oh my God, he could wake up at any moment. I could get caught looking through his things. I got to do those things, which is kind of fun. But yeah.
Well, Lachey confirms that villain moments were had.
For sure.
So it's finally time for the game. You fly out to Tennessee. Who did you ride with the car to the game site? And who were you sequestered with?
Gosh. Okay. So my car ride was actually a very fun-filled group. It was me, Trav, Aliana, and Rob. It was a very, very interesting group compared to what happened in the game. So that's who I rode with. Obviously, as we've all talked about already, it was a very general conversation. But I really vibed with literally everyone in the car. The general conversation we had about just Survivor and life, and we talked about like music and artists we love and stuff like that. And we had like nice conversations, and that was kind of the groundwork. Like I feel like I bonded differently with all three of them. Specifically Rob, like I really enjoyed Rob's energy. We like a couple of the same people, like when it comes to music. I like that Trav was very vocal about like the representation in games and things like that, which is something that I pride myself very much on when I'm in a game or if I help on production for games. So I think that's very important, especially in these times. And then Aliana was just kind of this like badass chick that I was like, all right, I love the energy she was giving, and I could tell at one point. I know she mentioned it as well, but we talked about like our favorite Survivor players, and she mentioned Abby Maria, and I was like, oh, okay. Like I kept it to myself, but I was like, that's an interesting choice because Abby's known as like one of the like biggest villains, like I would say maybe top 10, top 20 villains of Survivor. So that kind of struck a chord, but yeah, conversation was good there. And then my sequester buddy was Janai, and that was probably like an hour or so of us just kind of chatting here and there, getting like really excited. But obviously, again, we can't talk game, we can't talk anything like that. We were definitely probably the most eager because we could not stop going to the bathroom. We kept peeing. We made a joke about it. We literally, our bladders for some reason, we kept being like, hey, we have to go to the bathroom again, like please. But I think it was just really excited. Like we just really wanted to get out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I remember we made like a little alliance name, afterwards about it because we thought it was a little, cute little joke. But yeah, it was Janai was my sequester buddy, and it was a nice little, I don't know, calming moment because Janai gave very much like motherly energy, and as a kid of a single mom, like I kind of attract towards the mothers a little bit, and that kind of was a nice little calming energy before the game started.
So the game begins. You find yourself on the Purple Kanane tribe. Looking at the cast as a whole, was there any other players you recognized or knew?
Yeah, so I automatically recognized from Kanane. I actually prior to I recognized Rob right before we got into the property. There's something about Rob that I was saying like I know this person, but I don't know this person. Like I've never talked to them, but like their face just like reads, I know you. And I just somehow my brain clicked and I was like, did he just play a game? Did he just win a game? Hold on. And I was like, I was like in the front seat. He was behind me. And I was just like, Survivor New York? ? And I like looked and I was like, oh God, he did just win a game. Okay. That's knowledge I can use later, possibly. Who knows? And then I also knew, from Anada, I knew Chad, and I knew Allison. Chad played Survival Challenge with me in my season, but we never played together. He got voted out pre-merge. We were never on the same tribe. So like I've like, we've had conversations in our like group chats and stuff like that, but like we've never been around each other in a game sense. And then you Allison from season 10 of Survival Challenge, because I was on production for that. And I just kind of figured that otherwise there were probably some other people that I didn't know of personally that probably had played games. I kind of go into any of these situations thinking, okay, someone's probably played a game that I don't know or that I had not heard of before. Even if they're just orgers, they might be org players, and org players can be pretty ruthless. I stay away from orgs because like that energy is usually not for me. I think it's a lot of drama most of the time. So I stay away from those, but I kind of expect that as well.
So I'm curious, were you coming in playing and not saying you played a game before, or are you going to be pretty open about that experience?
Yeah, from previous experiences when I've played other games and I've tried to not talk about playing games, it hasn't worked out for me. So no, I definitely went into the game being like, if the conversation arises of people playing games and somebody asks me, I'm not going to lie. I know that Survival Challenge is one of the more known games. CYS is pretty up there as well. So I figured that most likely, especially if people did their research, someone might recognize my face, whether it's from the live streams of Survival Challenge or even my season, even though our episodes aren't out or whatever. But like someone
someday.
We're working on it right now. Me and we're working on our episodes. They'll be out soon. But anyway, yeah. So I kind of just was like, okay, if somebody talks about it or asks me, I'll be honest. I wasn't planning to hide it. And I think that conversation did eventually kind of roll out, but I want to say that was like maybe like night 1 into day 2. It wasn't really the focus of the conversation in the beginning.
So looking at your purple tribe, Kanane, how did you feel about your tribe, especially when you were seeing the orange tribe for the first time?
Yeah, I felt at first I saw Armdrew, as they call them. And I saw Armdrew and I saw Colby, and I was like, okay, all right. And Jay West even was, a little like kind of like built, and I was like, oh, all right, cool, great. 3 really just like beefy buff guys, and I was like, and I saw me, and I was like, saw Rob, and I was like, okay, cool, we have Rob, and I was like, we have me. I'm like, I feel like I can hold my own, but I'm not like the strongest.
You don't put yourself as like as part of the big guidelines in your game.
No, not at all. And then like I was kind of like physically I was like, ooh, and we had like all like really like small like women as well. I was like, I don't know, I'm not sure. Like that was my initial kind of reaction, but then we got into the first challenge, and I was definitely proven wrong, and I'm glad that I was proven wrong. I'm glad that I judge a book by its cover, and I ate my own words. And we definitely proved ourselves leading into the first challenge.
Speaking of eating, how much mayo did you eat in that first challenge?
Oh my God, the amount of mayo that I that lukewarm mayo, I ate a lot. I probably ate, I would say, the most out of anybody between like me, Janai, and I probably maybe a third person. Deb probably ate the most, honestly. Let's be real. I think Deb probably ate the most on Anada. Like I saw the TikTok of her like guzzling mayo, and but I definitely did the tactic of like pouring the water bottle into the mayo, because they're like, there's snacks in there that you have to get. And I was like, you know what, screw it. And I literally said, give me the jar. And I poured like a half bottle of water, and I just shook the mayo jar, and I chugged this mayo water, because I was like, especially because the first challenge is such a staple, and I did not want to get like screwed and not have these extra supplies and the better camp. Like I wanted that. So I did what I had to do. Did I regret it later? I absolutely did, and I apologize to the woods of Reelfoot property for what happened later. But I did what I did. So,
well, your tribe wins that reward challenge. You get the better campsite. You have, at least the time being, a hammock and a chair. Talking about those opening hours of the game when you arrive at campsite, what are you doing? Who are you talking to?
Yeah, the first opening hours, as usually do, you kind of scope out the camp, and you see what's around, you see what the different paths and things like that. My main focus was to immediately figure out like our layout. We came into camp, we saw that we had the plywood like bedding, and I was like, okay, that's not going to fit 9 people. There's no way. But I saw that we had these nice 2 trees lined up, and I was like, that's perfect space for the hammock. Great, hammock goes there. I feel like I was building a sim house. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, we're gonna place this here. This is gonna be nice. We gotta move the fire pit over here. Like that's kind of how my brain worked. Once we kind of figured that out, I left it to others to kind of build, because I've been in situations where like there's too many cooks in the kitchen, and I feel like that's like the motto of Kanane. It was very much too many cooks in the kitchen at one time when it came to challenges and just kind of like decision making. So I left a good group of them to do that, and I was like, I'm gonna go collect wood and kind of get in sticks and things like that, because we were going to need it. And I like doing that. I don't know why. I kind of like venturing out, and also that's a good time to like have conversations and things like that. I immediately, even while we were walking to the mat, I immediately wanted to talk and clicked with Lachey. That was the first person I probably spoke words to, other than Janai, obviously, in Sequester. Lachey and I immediately were like, so happy that you were on my tribe, because we spotted each other in the house when we couldn't speak to each other. Like I think we just kind of locked eyes and we were like, okay, vibes. Good vibes. And so she was somebody I talked to initially. I obviously linked with Trav because of the car ride, and with Rob as well. Rob and I definitely more so, we didn't really speak words. We kind of spoke like physical reactions to each other. Like we were very much like we would smile and nod, right? Or like kind of like wink. Like there was not as much vocal interaction as I feel like we both understood, at least in the beginning of the game, that like we weren't looking at each other as like targets. Like that was not something I was planning to do. I don't think that was something he was planning to do in that moment. Ironically. But then, so probably Lachey, Trav, and Rob were the big ones. And then we were searching around for bathroom areas, and I come across some interesting letters that were spread throughout our property that we had, that had to do with the cryptid that we found when we got to camp.
Yeah, so let's talk about that cryptex. So when you arrive at camp, you find this cryptex. What are your thoughts about this? Is this something that you want to open?
Yes, absolutely. Because the cryptex is literally from the last season of Survivor. I was like, this is already game changing, because we even though we already had our beads, I was like, this is something. I was like, there's something inside here. Clue to another bead, clue to an idol, an extra vote. I was like, I want that in my pocket. No matter what, because this, especially this early in the game. And I also, even if I didn't get it, I kept my eyes on it at all times whenever I could, because as long as I knew who could have gotten it, that was information for me. And that was a way for me to, let's say Lachey grabbed it, I'm like, okay, cool. Like Lachey and I are going to have a conversation. Or if I see someone I wasn't really talking to, like in the beginning, I wasn't really talking to like Nina. If I see Nina grab it, okay, I'm like, okay, Nina, you and I are going to have this conversation because I saw you grab it and I saw you solve it, just in case it was like more of a subtle, sneaky thing. But that was not the case. It wasn't a sneaky find. We kind of all eventually made it a very public thing.
Yeah, it feels like your tribe was much more laid back about the cryptex than the Nada tribe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I will say, at first we were not. At first it was very much so. I remember walking to where we would go to the bathroom, walking to that area just to kind of scope it out, and I just like it was like inside of a tree, like there was like I think it was an A, and I was like, oh. And the first thing I did, I turned around and I was like pretending like I didn't see anything, and I was like, I want to say Lachey, and I was like, hey Lachey, I was like, come like try to find like a spot with me for like where we can go to the bathroom, like we're still like scoping out our camp. She's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll come with you. And then Sam like thought that was also an invitation for her. So she said, I'll come too. And I was like, all right, well, damn. So I immediately had to like adjust my plan and be like, okay, so now I'm not going to not share it with Sam. Like that's not what I'm going to do. If that's a door that's open right now, the door's open and I got to keep it that way. So I let them know about, hey, there's an A. So clearly there's letters around camp. Let's start looking around, figuring that stuff out. A little further down that path, we find another letter. I want to say it was like an I. have 2 letters. That's awesome. That's 2 out of 6. And then you kind of slowly start to see people kind of wandering off a little bit more. And I think that that's when it started turning into like, okay, everyone's aware there are letters. Like you kind of just got that energy shift. And at that point for me, I was like, okay, let me tell certain people, hey, I found these letters in case they might have found other letters, because then they would be willing to maybe share that information with me. So that did happen. I want to say I maybe talked to like Brandon, and I might have talked to Rob and maybe Trav, and I found that there was an O on the log. I found that there was a P in the P area, which is a joke that we have on Kanane. Our P area was where there was the P. I don't know how that happened, but it did. And then eventually we found, the U was like further down the path from walking into camp. So everything started kind of collectively coming together to a point where I think we all realized that, like, hey, we all know there's letters. We all know how many letters there are. Let's not make a target on anyone's back and just like whoever solves it, and we'll go from there. And so once we had 5 of the 6 letters, for me, I was like, okay, there are 4 vowels and a P. And I was like, what freaking word? Like, huh? Like, what word can I think would use those letters? And so, as someone, I also work at a escape room. So, like, my brain is very puzzle game master. Yep. Like, I was like, I'm not the best at all puzzles, but like that's just kind of how my mind has to work.
With 5 of 6 letters, you can brute force something.
Oh, absolutely. So I kind of turn my Wordle brain on, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take those 5 letters, and then I'm just going to go through the alphabet and just add and see, and then jumble in my brain, and eventually I get down to T, and I'm like, wait a second, and I was like, Utopia, and like in my head, I didn't say it out loud, and I just immediately like sped walk to the cryptid or cryptics. I was like, all right. And I just picked it up. I said, Rob actually had it in his hand. I was like, Rob, can I see that? And he was like, yeah. I just start going. And as I'm like putting the word in, they're like, what is it? And I'm like, 1 second. Because I didn't want to be wrong. So I was like, 1 second. And as I like pulled it open, I was like, Utopia. And I got the little piece of paper inside. So yeah.
Which read
that I had to give this piece of paper to a member of production. Ominous. Ooh. So that was, for me, I was like, okay, great. This is already not as I wanted it to be, since it was so public, I wanted it to kind of be like the information right then and there. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to like make up a story, and because I don't know how I would have fared making something up if I did get some kind of advantage, because I don't think I would have told everybody the truth had that been the case. But I just, it was like, I was like, it's just gotta go show them to production. Like,
and I feel like production also probably wishes that it said what it was, given what goes on with Kobe and the other tribe, where no one believes him, unfortunately, even when he comes out with a jar of candy.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I eventually did that. I did my one of my confessionals and handed the piece of paper to them, and eventually they came back to camp with the jar of candy, where I had to choose 3 people to split the jar of candy with.
And did you choose?
Yeah, that was, I chose. So I hate choosing when it comes to like, it's really food. I hate it. I don't like it. So I kind of just offered. I was like, hey, does anybody want it? And nobody really spoke up at first. And I was like, okay. So I chose Brandon because I don't know. Brandon was someone who I wanted to get to know more and talk more with. And then Sam eventually was going to like, I'll do it. Like, I'll take candy. And I said, cool. All right, Sam, great. Here you go. And then Lachey was the other. Yeah, Lachey was the other candy choice. And that was because that was my girl. So yeah, it was the 4 of us, the candy bandits.
So did you solve this on day 1 or day 2?
Day 1. Like, okay. Maybe couple hours into
by a large margin.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Colby didn't solve it until after he raided our camp and got more information. He solved it because of Kanane, really. So, you know, I didn't want that to happen, but some people had to talk. So,
And did anyone ever like come to you and say, "Did you get more than that?" Or was there ever like suspicion that you got something else, or was it pretty apparent like you got a jar of candy?
yeah, okay, yeah. So there was a little suspicion, because I'm gonna just expose myself here. Hey, the whole tribe knows, so it's fine. They could easily expose me themselves. When I handed the paper to them at the confessional, all of a sudden, the vegan mayo in the water did not agree with me at all. So I handed the piece of paper. I said, I gotta go.
Vegan mayo.
And
Wow.
when I say sprinted like the Flash, came into camp right after they knew that I was handing the paper off to production, said, I'll be right back. I swiped a roll of toilet paper, ran into the woods, and things happened. Whether or not I made it in time, that's for you to guess. But
For the episodes.
exactly. And so that whole situation happened. And so what that looked like to them was that I was running to pretend like I was going to the bathroom to then go read whatever I was given. So coming back, and I knew, even though I was literally telling the truth, while I was going to the bathroom in the woods, I was like, oh my God, they think that looks so sus. It wasn't meant to look sus, but like, I had to go. Nature was calling, literally. And so went back to camp, and I kind of truly had to like do weird damage control of like, I don't have anything yet, guys. Like, I don't. Like, I literally was like, there's nothing on me. They said they'll be right back with whatever it is. And I think what worked out for me, luckily, was that they did wait until, you know, they came back to camp with it. It's not like I was given it right then and there. Had I been given it right then and there, same thing, maybe that would have been like, I don't know, that maybe still would have had raised a little bit of suspicion had it come back with like just a jar of candy. You know what I mean? But I think with production being like, here's what Isiah earned, and they saw nothing else, it kind of made the belief a little bit more real. So that kind of, I guess, took the target or took that radar off of me a little bit more.
Did you search the jar for something?
Oh, I absolutely did. And honestly, in front of people, some people call me out sometimes. I literally would take the jar and I'm just like, just looking, because there were like Skittles and like nerd clusters, so like circular things. And I was thinking like, okay, they could easily hide a colored bead inside of this jar. Like there's no, like, you know what I mean? Like it's like candy size. I was like, there's easily something there. So even when like one of the other candy bandits were like eating the candy, oh, I was watching them. Like I was, as much as I could, I was watching them. Like, oh, whenever they would dig their hands in, like if I was holding the jar, I was like, all right, let's see if they grab. Let's see if they, you know, are shuffling through their hands and see if they pick something out. And they're like, oh, that's, you know, whatever. But nope, it was just a jar of candy. I even looked at one point. I want to say I was talking to Nina, and I was looking at the label of this the sticker on the inside from the jar, from the inside of the jar's perspective. There was this weird like silver symbol pattern thing, and I was like, oh, that could mean something. Maybe it's like a map to like some kind of path. But like I was going way off, you know, off the rail with that. But no, it's just a jar of candy with some nice sweet treats.
Josh notes that. Imagine popping a bead in your mouth and crunching down. Maybe the answer, Josh, is all the beads should have been gobstoppers to begin with.
Hey, you know, that would work. Luckily, I didn't break a tooth, so that's good.
Speaking of the other kind of advantage to deal with at the start of the game is you learn that there are no idols hidden. Instead, everyone starts with 1/3 of an idol in their pocket. You have to knight your beads to have a functional idol. What was your thought about this twist, and how did you play around it?
Yeah, so I really liked it. I thought that was an interesting twist that I've never seen a game play like use before. It makes it imperative to really focus on your relationships and you know, and building those bonds enough to where if you're in danger, that you have at least two people that are willing to give up their version of safety to you, and vice versa, right? So from that point, literally when they told us the twist and when we got the beats, I made it my mission to be in as many threes as possible. That was my main goal with that. So I was finding, you know, I have Lachey as like my main girl, but I was definitely like open to other options. So I had like Lachey and Brandon were a trio. I felt like I had like Trav and Lachey. I felt like I had Rob and Trav. I felt like I had Sam and Lachey. Like Lachey was in the beginning kind of like that other person that I was also tagging along. Like I knew for a fact Lachey would play her beat for me and I would play it for her. That was like a given.
Mm-hmm.
But that was my main thing. I wanted to just have as many routes of protection in case my name came up and where people felt confident enough to want to keep me and use that power on me to keep me around, or again for them as well. I would be willing to do that with the right reasons. Obviously, there were a couple people that I was like, maybe we'll see how things go. But if you convinced me, then you would have convinced me. So yeah.
So you've talked about your relationship and alliance with Lachey. Someone else that I feel we should, I guess, talk to me about Brandon and Geraldine, because the way I kind of see your tribe is you have Rob, Nina, and Trav on one end, and then you, Lachey, Brandon, Geraldine kind of occupy the other end, and then Janai and Sam kind of more middle. Janai's gonna get voted off early, and so Sam's kind of between the two. Is that a fair assessment of your tribe?
Yeah, I feel like that is a fair assessment. I think that group, like those groupings, didn't really fully strongly develop until maybe like night 2, like when we knew that tribals were happening the next day. And it was interesting because I felt like I was kind of in the middle of a group of 4 in a weird way, because Lachey and Brandon were super close. I was super close with Lachey, and I was super close with Geraldine. Geraldine and Lachey, and they can tell you themselves, for so long, no matter what I did, they would have conversations, and then they would both come to me separately and be like, nothing really happened. And I'm like, talk to each other. Like, I was like, I need my 2 people to get along and to play this game together so that I feel secure in this. Because Brandon was also there, but I knew that Brandon was also close with like Rob and with Nina. So or not with Nina, with Rob mostly. So I was just like, Brandon was kind of like, okay, he's there. He is a part of this 4, but my main like focuses were Geraldine and Lachey. So yeah, I feel like that 4 did develop eventually, especially after the Lachey and Trav thing kind of dispersed. I feel like initially the 4 or even the 5 was going to be like me, Lachey, Trav, Rob, and Brandon, but it just never held any water. And it kind of faltered eventually. But yeah, no, that definitely is a fair assessment between how the groupings were.
So what point did you start working with Geraldine? Was this something that immediately you 2 clicked, or is that something kind of developed in the span of 1 to 2 days?
Yeah, no, I want to say like Geraldine and I definitely clicked on day 1. I think it took me a bit for me to see Geraldine as like, okay, game wise, I'm like, I can see myself going really far with her. I loved her as a person, and I think that in the process of getting to know her, eventually the game talk finally started, because I could tell like Geraldine was very open and honest about like her anxiety about being there and it being her first game. And I'm someone who, like, when people play their first games, if as someone who has played them already, I love to watch new players experience a game, and I love to watch them like blossom. And I like to, obviously, in a small part of it is for my personal benefit, right? For like an ally or whatever. But it generally is just as a person and as a lover and a fan of this game of Survivor. I just love watching these people, try for the first time. And Geraldine was someone who I could see, even though she was very much like me in Survival Challenge. Like, I was super nervous. I was very excited, but there was a lot of anxiety. There was a lot of pressure, kind of just to yourself. And so eventually, like, I realized, like, okay, Geraldine's not just on a really cool chick, and like that we don't just bond on like personal things, but also I can see myself. Like, I started to see her logical, like her game mind, and I was like, I like this, because she was always cool, calm, and collected. She was, and granted, like, I had my moments where I was not cool, calm, and collected, as we saw. But like, I feel like Lachey was kind of like the firecracker, and then like Geraldine was like the sparkler, right? Where it's like, okay, like she had her moments of like flashy and like, being a little extra, but she would die down after a while, and she knew when to kind of chill. But like, I feel like Lachey was just always popping off at every point, and I was like, okay, I need to figure out the balance between these two because they're not exactly the same, but I can see them working together.
Now, what about Brandon? Because you bring him as the Candy Bandits, right? You said you had like that was a way to try to get them to know more. It sounds like it was successful.
Yes. No, Brandon. So I freaking love Brandon. I definitely think game wise, a big reason why I wanted him around was one, huge challenge asset. Like, again, as someone who clearly misjudged the book by its cover, I was like, I wasn't sure how Brandon was going to perform at first because I knew like he had mentioned like he was older and whatnot, and like freaking blew me out of the water. I could not stand next to Brandon in a lot of those challenges. But also I remember, I want to say maybe it was like night one. And I know it was with Lachey, but maybe with some other people. We were talking about like, oh, could never vote Brandon out. Brandon's just so nice. There's no way, like how could you do that? And so I could see Brandon being someone who could be a very big shield for me further down the line. And I was totally fine with that. And I felt like also at the same time, Brandon came to me at one point and was saying how like he really trusts Lachey, and Lachey said that she trusts me. So in turn, he trusts me. And I was like, I'm cool with that, like that triangle. I love that. And so he was definitely an asset to my game. I didn't know, depending on how the game was going to go, I didn't know how far that working relationship would have gone. Personally, I wanted him to go with me pretty far, but I felt at some point like he was definitely one of the first people that I said, there's no way I could beat this guy at the end. He has too good of a story. He's too personable. And I knew that at some point probably I would have to cut him, but I wasn't planning on doing that anytime soon, especially in the pre-merge.
Talking about Nina, because both of you are pretty. You come out to your tribe about like your own your physical disabilities. I think on day one, was that a connection you two had? Because it seems like, again, kind of looking at the strata of how this tribe's going to go, you two are going to kind of end up on opposite sides of the alliances.
Yeah, that's definitely something that that's probably one of my first like really big, like I wish I did something different, was clicking with Nina earlier on. I will say my first like impressions of Nina were like from like the very first challenge and things like that. She definitely much gave like a leader type, right? And I couldn't figure out if it was a leader type that I was going to gel with or not. It felt like the conversations I was like having with some people is that her sternness when it came to like making decisions, because she was very much like whenever the cooks in the kitchen thing would happen, she's like, guys, like she would be the one to be like slapping the ruler, be like, we need to like figure it out, or like, hey guys, stop talking. They're literally doing instructions. And for me, I understood it. For others, it felt like she might have been rubbing people the wrong way. So I definitely held back a little bit at first because I didn't want to be attached to someone who might have rubbed people the wrong way. I want to say maybe like day 2, I want to say morning of day 2 is when we finally like, I did pull her aside because I had talked to Geraldine a little bit about like Nina and how she liked her and was vibing with her. So I was like, okay, let me actually talk to Nina and see where her head's at and see if we can actually kind of maybe be on the same page. And we definitely agreed to want to work together and had minimal conversations there. But I think in that moment, it was too late for me and her to really make something concrete. And I wish that I had spoken to her earlier because, I think Nina and I really could have been a freaking force if we had solidified it earlier.
And tell me about Sam, because Sam kind of, you mentioned earlier, you brought her Lachey, showed her a letter, even though you didn't really want Sam. That was more of a Lachey thing that Sam tagged along. Was Sam someone you were investing in, or because Sam seems to get thrown out a lot in this tribe?
Yeah. So Sam. Okay. So Sam reminds me of people that I knew from home. I originally from New Jersey, and so she was giving like full Jersey Shore Italian, like loud, abrasive, like just like and I know how to handle that kind of energy. But I will say it in not in the game of Survivor. I was not expecting to deal with that. I love that girl down. I love her so much. I think I love how genuine she is, and she's not afraid to be herself, and she doesn't give a crap what anybody thinks or what anybody has to say about her. And I commend her and respect her for that. But when it came to, game wise, I feel like there was, at least when it came between her and I guess maybe our pulses of the game were different. I feel like that's why I could never 100% like align with her. Like there were times where she would just like unchallenge it or something where I'm just like, hey, relax, like calm down, like, or like, hey, do this. And, she would apologize. And I'm like, it's fine. That's fine. I understand this, it's a high stress situation, but like, you're the person, because she was the one who started this whole like calming circle with us. And like, we had our breathe in the wind, breathe out the doubt chant because of her. So it was so interesting to see the person who allowed us to have our calming moments before every challenge be the most stressed, the most frantic, and the most emotional, whether or not there was always some kind of like really like outward emotion. I realized probably like day 2 that is an energy that like I could not control when it came to the game, right? Like I felt like it was kind of out of my hands. Like there was no way to kind of bring her down to where I could be like, okay, you're centered, we're fine. It turned into a thing where I was like, this is going to, again, eventually put a target on my back. So I need to kind of separate myself, but not fully cut ties.
So all right, I'm gonna talk about more players as we kind of go through. But your tribe and the not a tribe, you go back and forth. You win a challenge, lose a challenge, win a challenge, lose a challenge. You get the first mini challenge, you win the first mini challenge. You're not going to the tribal council, but something that's really unique about your tribe is that you all start scrambling even though you won.
Oh my god. Yeah, and that was mainly, and I love them, mainly due to Lachey. Because Lachey wanted to talk game day 1, minute 1. Like Lachey was like, y'all, I know day 3 is when we vote people out, but we need to start talking game. And so when that wasn't happening,
she is right.
Yeah, she is. But I think that a lot of us on Kanane were we were talking game. Don't get me wrong. I think we all were, but like a little bit more subtle. And I remember learning that Lachey didn't do well with like not being checked in with, because I remember like her and Trav had their whole moment, but her and I also had a moment at first where she had to check in with me and be like, hey, I feel like we might not be good, because I wasn't checking in, and for me, the way that I look at it is like, if I feel good with an ally, the amount of times that I'm checking in with them, I don't do it as much. And that's just how I operate. So like the reason why I wasn't checking with her, like, like everything's good, is because I felt so good with her. That I was like, I don't need to be like, we're good, Lachey, but learned that she kind of needed that a little bit more. So I realized, okay, I do need to kind of communicate with her, even though things are fine. I'm not looking at Lachey for any reason, like to target her, but I will do that because if that's what brings her comfort and kind of allows her to still trust me and build that with me, then I'll do so. But yeah, no, her and Trav had this whole thing where I thought we were good, and then I guess I wasn't really there for the whole thing, but they had some kind of fallout, whether it was from their previous game in Outlast or something happened in the moment there. I kind of became this middleman between these two, because we were all at camp like chilling and talking around the fire, and they're just in eyes distance having a whispering conversation, just the two of them. And for me, I was like, okay, these are two people that I am supposed to be in like this trio / group with, and they're just having their own conversation for like the past 10 minutes. What the hell? So I go over and I'm like, hey guys, like, what's going on? And also trying to be like, hey guys, this looks weird. We need to stop doing this. Like, what's happening? And they kind of like explained that there was a little bit of, kerfuffle and conversation. And so they separated. And I talked to Trav first, and Trav was like, is there any way you can like smooth things over? Like, can you help me smooth things over with Lachey? Like, she's not trusting me. I don't know why she's not trusting me, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I can try, but also that's not my job to do, which is very true. Like, I'm not a part of whatever was going on.
You didn't read the contract when you came to the game,
Exactly. I didn't sign anything. I am not the mediator. I am not the messenger. I am not your therapist. Like, that's not what I'm here to do. So I was like, I will try, which I did talk to Lachey, but I was also like, hey, basically to both of them, I was like, you both need to figure it out. Like, for the sake of whatever this can potentially be for us, y'all need to figure it out. I don't like seeing two people that I really want to work with at heads, butting heads with each other. So yeah, and then I think that kind of sparked, unfortunately, the chill night that we were supposed to have. I'm like, oh, we don't have to go to tribal in the morning. Oh no, it immediately started okay, it looks like we have to talk because, hey, the inevitable thing is that unless we are God tier tribe, we are going to tribal at least once tomorrow. And things started.
So you mentioned this is kind of when you start seeing the rift in your tribe. But also, where does Janai fall in all of this?
So Janai for me was someone who, again, like I mentioned with Geraldine earlier, right? Or like I knew that it was her first game. She was very excited to be there. She was very eager, and I wanted to utilize that, but also I wanted to. Janai was the first person on my tribe technically that like I knew, at least, right? Because I didn't know until we went outside that Trav was on it and Rob was on it. I knew it was on my tribe, and I kind of, in a way, was like, okay, she's my student. I'm her teacher, and we're going to show her how to play a live game. And so I was always trying to be very encouraging towards her whenever we had conversations. But when I was having conversations about her with other people, everyone kind of had that general consensus of like, I wasn't really talking game with them, even though some of them were kind of like putting breadcrumbs out. She wasn't really grabbing onto the fact that like they were like, hey, what are you thinking game-wise? And it was more so like experience talk of like, oh, this is great. And like, more just like the life of being in Survivor. And so when I realized that was kind of the general consensus, I was like, I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket for Janai because it doesn't seem like she's, again, making any kind of like inroads with people enough to want to, kind of pull her in. But I still wanted there to be a chance for her to stay if that were the case.
So you lose the second immunity challenge. You're going to tribal council. Was it a clear-cut Janai vote in that case?
So it was between Janai and Sam. But at first it was very much clear-cut Janai. And again, I think, like I just said, it was because she just didn't take the time to make those game conversations and those strategy conversations. But I will never forget that, like, while we were doing the scramble, Janai and I are talking, and she's like, and I know at this point, like, her name is out there. And she is also aware. Like, Janai is not, she's a smart lady, she knew. But she knows, like, what do you think we should do? Like, if it's not me, like, who do we go for? And I truly was like, Janai, I was like, it is your name out right now. I was like, so as the person who has their name out, what do you want to do? I was like, this is the moment where you try and take charge of your game. Throw a name out there. Tell me what name you want. I will, if it's a name that I agree with, like, I'll spread that. That's the other name going around and see if anybody catches it. And so she mentioned Sam, and I'm like, okay, that is a name that I've heard. I can see people maybe working with that because Sam was, again, kind of, not gelling too much with the, again, as you were saying, like the two factions, right? Like there were the two camps in the middle. And I was like, okay. And I was like, you go around, have those conversations, bring up Sam, see what people think. I will do the same thing. And I just think that in the moment, we did not have enough time for anything to really kind of stick for people. I felt like that. Again, I'm glad that she did it. I'm glad that she really tried to take charge and tried to, see if people would maybe switch the vote. But I feel like had she done that maybe a day prior, it might have maybe stuck a little bit better. Because personally, for my game, I think I trusted the energy of Janai a little bit more than again kind of unpredictable, emotional, kind of reactions to things. Where I felt like I could maybe I could hold on to Janai a little bit easier than Sam, and I could trust Janai a little bit more than Sam.
So let's say Sam goes out here, and then we probably still have the Trav Lachey conflict, and the Trav goes out, followed by Nina. Does that mean Rob is the fourth person eliminated from this tribe if we follow this timeline?
Oh gosh. That's interesting.
Or you think Janai still gets voted out at some point later on?
I think maybe at that point, looking at the tribe, and obviously again, this is post game everything and how I can
not canon.
Yeah, I think Janai would maybe go out before Rob. I honestly don't even think. I think after Trav, it might have been Janai. I don't think Nina even would have gone before Janai.
Okay.
Yeah, just that's my personal opinion. But hey, could have been wrong,
I think Lachey may be disagreeing on this alternate timeline, perhaps. Lachey, post in the chat what you think the boot order would have been.
Yeah. If Janai stayed, I want to know. I want to know what the boot order would have been for her. She was one person who was Team Sam, wanted to keep Sam because Sam was good for her game, and that was everything. That was one thing I feel like maybe shifted Lachey's, and I love you, girl. Lachey's position in my ranking of like number 1, number 2 was that like Geraldine was very much on my page of like, okay, Sam's gotta go. Like Sam is not good for our tribe. She's not good for our game. She's going to flip the moment she gets the chance to. We can't have her around. And like finding out post game that we were right, like Sam was like, oh yeah, I would have flipped, right? But in the game, of course, Sam's like, no, I wouldn't. And just she had people believing that she was going to be loyal, and I was just like, there's no chance. I was like, the fact that she was so like publicly emotional in front of the other tribe, she was telling people every time, even after we would win, oh, I'm on the bottom, I needed this because I was going to go home next, and telling the other tribe publicly that she was going to be next. I was like, you're making yourself like a nice little package for them to grab if you swap or if we merge. Like that's how my brain worked with that. So yeah.
All right. So Lachey says, if your tribe loses a lot, Sam first, Trav, Nina, and then Rob is the fourth.
What?
Geraldine fifth, Janai sixth, leaving you, Brandon, and her for the top 3 of the tribe.
Okay,
so yes, essentially saying that Rob would have been the fourth boot if she had her way.
Okay, yeah. So I like that 3, but no, for me, obviously for me, like Jerry would not know. That's when me and Lachey would have been at odds for sure. But hey.
So I want to talk about the 4th immunity challenge because this doesn't go well for you. This is the Sumo at Sea challenge, which the whole Orange tribe was paralyzed with the thought of going against Rob. But who did you go up against in this challenge, and how'd you do?
I didn't do this challenge because I have PTSD with Sumo at Sea. So prior to this challenge, production allowed us to all close our eyes and raise our hand if we did not feel comfortable playing this challenge. I've played this challenge twice before. One at Survival
Both your games.
Yeah, at other games. And the first time Survival Challenge, it was fine. And then I played like a mini kind of version of it with like friends and stuff like that. And and that time we didn't have life jackets. And I got knocked back so hard that I got the wind knocked out of me, and I like swallowed water. So like I have trauma from that. So I just was like, okay, yeah, I know I have a life jacket, but I don't like Sumo at Sea. I never perform well. So I raised my hand and I sat out for that challenge. Do I regret it? Like looking back at it a little bit, just because obviously like we did lose, and that eventually leads to the drama and the performing that I had to do for the next vote. But no, in that moment I was like, I don't feel comfortable. This challenge is not really my forte. So I sat out and I watched the entertainment.
Who from the Orange tribe could you have taken in Sumo at Sea?
Oh God. Honestly, this is probably not true. I feel like I could only take maybe Juan. Andrew and Colby, absolutely not. Chad, no. I maybe Juan, but also Juan is just also such a beast. Like the shot of him jumping through that rectangle form in the very first challenge, like by himself, lives rent free in my mind. So and he's very like, he's slick and he's sly. So I don't know if I would even beat him. But if I had to pick a name, probably Juan.
So your tribe loses. when does the fallout between Trav and Lachey really begin? Like, when does it become clear, like, oh, these two, it's just not going to work?
Yeah, so it started before we even went to our first tribal council. Because right before that tribal, I was talking with Trav and with, I think, Nina, and we're like, okay, it's Janai. Janai's the vote. Janai's the vote. Cool, confirmed. Go to Geraldine to confirm that. Geraldine goes, well, Trav just told me it was Lachey. And I was like, and I literally, I 180'd so quick, and I went up to him and I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm hearing that it's Lachey. What are you talking? And so then he was like, oh, I wasn't sure if I wanted to tell you because I know that you and Lachey are close. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm not even kidding, Steve. 10 seconds between those conversations. He told me Janai, and then I talked to Geraldine, and I talked to him. Oh my God. So it started there. And I basically had to be like, and this is, I don't like to pull this card. I don't usually, but in that moment, I was really already emotional and really kind of annoyed with him. But I was pointing out that Jay West just went. And then Lachey would go next. I was like, do you really want the first two people to be POCs? And I was like, and the only POC woman that we have, I literally was like, really, Trav? I was like, because he and I had talked about the representation and the diversity and all that stuff. So I really had to, I was like, and it wasn't just a game. I truly did feel that way. But I felt like that was a way for me to get to Trav to be like, that is a dumb decision. What are you doing? And so, and I convinced him that was not the time. And even that, put that all aside, it just wasn't the right move for our tribe to get rid of Lachey in that moment. It just wasn't. So that's when it kind of started, because she got wind that Trav was scoring for the very first vote out. And then from that point on, it was done deal. Lachey was never going to work with him ever. I had to keep my options open because there was this group that was forming, right, with Trav and Rob and Nina, where I was like, okay, if they get their way and Lachey goes, I need to make sure that I'm not on their hit list, right? That I'm a part of whatever group I can be a part of that involves them, which was me. Eventually was me, Rob, Trav, Nina, and Geraldine. And I was like, okay, I don't mind that either. I like that group. But for some reason, to Trav, that group was never solidified. Even though to me and to Geraldine, at least, I know that we were like, yeah, that's great. I was down for that group of 5. I was so here for it. We had literally, me and Trav had a nice morning of day 3, sat down for 40 minutes and had a conversation about how I felt like he was not really talking to me as much as he was talking to Rob and Nina, and I felt like we had a disconnect and all those things. And we had a really heart-to-heart conversation, and then eventually Nina came over and Geraldine came over and joined the conversation, and Bob came over, and then we were like, okay, cool. This, after we hashed it out, we were like, okay, this 5, awesome. But I guess that just never was in, I guess, Trav's mind, an actual solid confirmation. So yeah, so then that all happened, and we get to the inevitable okay, we're going to tribal again. And it's between Lachey. Lachey's name is coming out of Trav's mouth, and I'm like, this is also, again, a dumb decision. Why are we doing this? This doesn't make sense. I was like, Lachey is more of an asset for challenges, and we can trust her more than Sam. Sam, just, again, I don't think that that's going to be our smart move for our group of 5 that I was, thinking of. And he just was so gung-ho on it, and I was like, okay. I was like, so great, I can't do anything. I felt like I didn't have the numbers, so I was like, all right, cool. So I at first did admit defeat. I was like, this is just, I don't know what I can do. Lachey's gonna go. I'm not gonna vote Lachey. I'm not putting her name down. I refuse to do so. But does it look like there's any wiggle room? And then I'm talking to Geraldine at one point, and I have this random idea that I'm like, hey, what if you, me, Lachey, and Sam, the two people's names that were being brought up, and Brandon blindside. At first, I brought up Nina, because I thought that Nina was the glue holding Trav and Rob together. Like I felt like Nina was the one kind of having them. So I brought up Nina because I thought that could maybe break the Rob and Trav thing, because after Janai's vote, Rob talked to me and told me that he was feeling very paranoid by Trav because of this whole, like, Trav convinced Rob and Nina to give him their beads, and he made Rob feel like he was going home first. So I was like, okay, clearly there's some kind of distrust between them. So maybe Nina is the reason why they're sticking together. Geraldine, obviously, I found out later on is because Geraldine and Nina were pretty close. So Geraldine didn't really want to do that. But what Geraldine ends up doing, kind of as like a part 2 of the plan, was taking that same group, talking to Lachey finally about game and about making a move, and saying like, okay, what if we go for Trav? Because Geraldine was not trusting Trav because Trav was not having the conversations that he was having with Rob and Nina. He was not having it with me and Geraldine. So Geraldine was already not trusting that. And then knew that Lachey also was not vibing with Trav.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was when Lachey was like, absolutely, like, of course, Lachey is going to be like 4 thumbs up if she could. And so then we put that plan into motion. The one person that was kind of iffy about it was Brandon. At least from my perspective, he definitely seemed a little nervous that, you know, maybe another person like me or Geraldine or Sam could flip and then he's on the wrong side of a vote or wrong side of a tie. And I think that kind of freaked him out. And on the way to tribal, I pulled him like aside and we were walking together and I was like, this needs to happen. Like, this is good. Like, this is a good move for us. Trav has a lot of paranoia. He's thrown out almost everyone's name. I was like, this is going to kind of level the playing field. Yes, Nina and Rob are probably going to be pretty upset, but like, we have this majority. This is good. This is good for us. You know, eventually it did work out. But, you know, prior to tribal as well, like I had my whole storming around camp moment.
What's that about?
That was because at one point I'm, you know, the plans in motion, that's what we're doing. And Sam and Lachey are like having a conversation and like whispering. And I look over and I see the trio of Nina, Trav, and Rob watching them talk. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, the 2 targets are whispering and having a conversation. They're looking. I immediately was like defense mode. And I walked over to Sam and I was like, Sam, why are we having this conversation? Like, we already know what's happening. They're voting Lachey. I'm voting for you. I've already talked to you about this. Like, I was very much like, I had to be like, abrasive and like mean almost, which I didn't want to be, but I had to make it look like I truly was just so annoyed that this plan was already set in motion, that Lachey was going. So, you know, I had to be as like just pissed off and peeved as possible to sell it. And I had to keep that going. So that was me storming around camp and stomping like a little toddler and truly throwing a tantrum.
It worked, though.
It did work. I didn't think it was going to be honest, but I'm glad that it did. Like, truly, up until we walked into tribal, and even at tribal, when I made my last my last words, I kept the bit going until I wrote Trav's name down in that voting booth. So
Trav was voted out in a 5-3 vote. Talk about the fallout, because this is the last vote of day 3.
Yeah. So the fallout was kind of what was expected. Maybe not from Nina's side. Nina told us that she would have voted for Trav had she been told the plan. I don't think Nina and I never asked Nina this post game, like if she actually meant that. In the moment, though, it felt, especially coming from like the fact that she gave Trav her bead right in the first vote. I was like, okay, like if you were willing to do that, it did not feel right to tell you that plan. It's just, there's no, like, you know what I mean? There's no way, especially if he actually is going to be the target this time. What makes you not want to give him your bead? Rob, though, was very much like, yes, nodding, like, okay, cool, great, awesome. Short words, not a lot of conversation, which valid. If that were me, I'd probably act the same way. Going back into camp, Rob did absolutely nothing except for get his stuff, lay down, and rest and go to sleep. He did not. He had his conversations like right after tribal, like one-on-ones with everybody. Did his confessional, but when we were back at camp, nothing. He was pissed off, and that was scary because up until that point, I really wanted to work with Rob, and I really liked Rob, and I knew that was going to possibly start a fire on that bridge, but I was hoping that with time he might forgive or understand why that move had to be made.
The next day, both tribes to the tribal council. You have an individual immunity challenge. Brandon will win for your tribe. Was it an open shut case for Nina? I think there was a couple names floating around at this point.
Yeah, so it was not. Yeah, it was not a clear cut and concise vote for Nina. Nina's name was out there. Sam's name was out there. Geraldine's name was out there from Sam. I think Rob's name even came out at one point as well. So that was definitely an interesting round because personally, and this is another like a lot of my like shoulda, coulda, wouldas involved Nina. And Geraldine and I had talked about this post game. I wish I just voted for Nina, whether or not it would have worked and she would have stayed or she still would have gone. In that moment, I truly did not want Nina to go. I think Nina and I had also bonded a lot more. We bonded from the Sumo at Sea challenge because she did, her hip started hurting afterwards, and her and I bonded more on our disabilities, and we had a really heartfelt moment, and I feel like that really bonded us. And I got to know her just on a different level than before, and so my kind of thoughts changed, and I felt like even though Rob had forgive, the next morning he woke up and said sorry and he did his apology tour, I still was like, that's still a beast waiting to be awakened again. I was like, there's no way that we're just moving past that. That was Trav was your number one. There's no way. But with Nina, I felt like the possibility of, okay, yeah, maybe she will want to move with her, especially because her and Geraldine were close. So I was like, that's great. That's a good connect for me. And I was cool with that. So I wish I had just stuck to my guns. And again, even if Nina did or didn't get voted out, I wish I just voted with her, because who knows, maybe we could have at least gotten one more person right to vote, and Sam could have gone, but I didn't end up doing that.
All right, so again, a lot of what ifs. If Sam goes here, does Nina go next?
No. At that point, Rob would have gone. For me. Yeah, Rob would have been next. I think that the four with Brandon, Geraldine, me, and Lachey, I like that. And then Nina, I would have wanted to keep around, not just for my game, but also to keep, Geraldine really wanted to keep her. And I think Rob at that point would have, I would have been fine with Rob going. So, and I think I could have convinced Lachey to do that instead of Nina first.
So it's Sam's fault Rob won.
Yeah, and no, I don't want to say that. No. I won't put the blame on Sam. But there's a lot of other things that happened that caused Rob to win. But I definitely think that vote, had Sam gone before Nina, could have easily changed things. I think people were also scared of the fact that if that were the case, let's say Sam goes and then we had one more and Rob were on exile, that Rob would just come back even more pissed. I think that was something that was even scarier, was okay, Rob's already pissed at majority of us. If he's in exile and he wins his way back, we're dead. There's no shot. And I think Geraldine and I think the reason why we ended up going for Nina or voting for her, not with her, was that we felt, I was rooting hands down that she would come back to the game. But I think I also felt that would be the easiest relationship to repair. I knew that the Trav relationship was going to be dead. I knew if Sam made it to exile and came back, that was probably going to be dead. And then let's say, again, hypothetically, that Rob got there as well, that would have been dead as well. I feel like Nina at least would have maybe been the one person from my tribe And Janai as well. I think Janai maybe. Actually, I don't know. Janai was kind of a wild card for me. I don't know if Janai would have stuck with us. I think she might have pretended and been sweet but plotted our demise as well. I don't know, which is valid. Hey, I probably would have done the same thing to my tribe if I were.
That's kind of what Nina did in a sense.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And she played it off really, really well. Like I was super excited for her to come back, and then she did all these things behind the scenes, and it was phenomenal gameplay. But yeah.
So you have the Outcast challenge. Now this is a pretty long challenge, but you end up winning along with the Anata tribe, so no one from the Outcast tribe re-enters the game.
Yep. Thank God. That challenge, I truly don't think I've ever been more stressed in any challenge that I've ever done in a game. We were so far behind. Like so far behind, y'all. If you guys have not seen that video of that challenge.
They didn't post it.
They didn't post? Oh, well, good. It was insane how far behind we were. I'm very happy that we obviously, we made up the time after all of the kit and caboodle of whatever the hell went on in that challenge. But yeah, that was crazy. I will never feel that amount of stress again, I don't think. But I'm very happy that both tribes survived. I at least, again, obviously wanted Kanane to at least survive. But it was nice to see that, okay, hey, maybe the Outcast twist is over. Maybe we don't have to worry about any of our adversaries coming back into the game. Maybe.
Too easy.
Too easy. That was not the case. They were told that, they would have another, they'd have to wait another day for another chance. So that was that.
So you win the next immunity challenge. Andrew gets voted out, and then
another comeback right there. Oof. That was another comeback. My God, the ball river thing.
Yeah. And then you get to the final tribal immunity challenge. This is the blind leading the blind, and you sit Sam out, and the challenge does not go well.
No, it does not. The leading the blind part, I felt confident in because I had been the caller from the last blind puzzle thing with Jerilyn, which is so interesting that the first and the last tribal immunity challenges were both having to do with leading the blind. But yeah, it went well from that part, right? From the leading the blind and finding the pieces. When I saw that it was that kind of puzzle, I hate those puzzles though, where it's the ones where it's it can take 20 seconds. It could take 2 hours.
Yep.
You get a certain amount of pieces correct and immediately clicks, right? I don't
these aren't things you see in escape rooms very often.
Yeah, no. Oh, no, not at all. No. So I definitely, I remember when I did my part, I led the blind, I got the pieces, and I stepped back. I didn't really take charge in that. I know that Nina had to. No, was it Nina? No, Nina wasn't there. My God, who was it? It was Rob. I think it was Rob. Someone said that they had practiced I think it was Rob. Rob had practiced that exact kind of puzzle, but with a different number of pieces, which I think might have been the problem there. Because I guess you can make that puzzle with 6 to 10 to 12. It just depends. It did not go well, and we lost. It clicked for Anata, and they literally, as soon as they clicked, it took them 10 more seconds, and they won.
So Sam is going to go out this tribal council. From what I've heard, it's a lot of people did not want to vote out Rob because Rob was being seen as a strategic asset coming into the merge. What were your thoughts and strategy at this round?
Yeah, no, I'll say that I was probably on the same page as that. I think that for me, I was still working on trying to gain Rob's trust back, right, and keep that relationship from round 2, from when Trav got blindsided. That was really my main goal with Rob, was just trying to do as much damage control when I can, knowing that eventually I would have to get rid of him, but I did want to keep him around. He was a big shield for me. I think he was a big shield probably for every single person on that tribe, which is what he, in my opinion, probably did use to his advantage, right? Was
Mhm.
he knew he was going to be this big shield. Let me be a big shield for everybody, but be able to kind of use that as everybody wants to work with him because they want to keep him around. So he's able to kind of have all those inner workings. But yeah, so that was it for me. I wanted to keep him around to merge, to be a bigger shield for me, and to kind of, again, still kind of build our relationship from an outside of the game perspective as well.
And you also mentioned believing Sam would flip in a heartbeat come merge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Again, I trusted it. Even though Rob felt, was hurt by the blind side and everything like that, I felt like I could maybe trust that Rob wouldn't flip before Sam. Sam, it was just all of her little actions, her little conversations, like during the counting challenge, like talking to like Andrew and Allison, saying that she's on the bottom and she's gonna go next if they lost, and all these other things. And it was just like there was no reason in my head that you should be telling our opponents that at any point. I would, even if I felt that way, I would never let them know where our crack is. Like Sam was showing that's where the crack was in the tribe, and that was not ideal for me, especially leading into a merge or swap, because at that point we're still wondering if we're going to swap, but yeah.
So let's talk about that. So your season has no swaps. At what point were you looking forward to a swap? Were you wanting a swap, or what point did you realize like, oh, it's just not happening?
Yeah, no, I was definitely looking forward to a swap, especially because of how back and forth we were going. I was like, every time it was like one here, one there, one here, one there, I was like, oh, we're gonna have an even split swap. This is gonna be interesting.
They're terrible.
Yeah, right. I was like, it was like, ooh, four. Like, and like the fan in me was like, ooh, that's gonna be fun. That's gonna be like, especially with the
good TV.
Yeah, good TV, exactly. Yeah, no, I was kind of looking forward to a swap. A main reason too was because I wanted to kind of talk to those that I knew. I wanted to talk to Allison. I wanted to talk to Chad, see where their games were at and where their heads were at. I also really, from like just an outside perspective of like watching, I know Lachey knew Jess from Outlast, so I was like, okay, that might be an inroad there. Aliana was on that tribe, and that was like the one person from my car that was not on my tribe, and I was like really, really wanting to play with Aliana like so badly, because I just loved her energy. So I was really hoping for a swap at one point, but I think we got to maybe like, I think it was when we got to like 12 or 13, and we were like, we're not swapping. I think the last round that we were like, okay, maybe a swap was like 14. And as soon as we passed that, we were like, there's absolutely no way that they're doing a swap at this point. That would be crazy, unless they're going to do a jury of 5, in a final 2. Like, which, hey, who knows? Reelfoot's crazy, so.
What's interesting about hearing all the strategy for the votes, the beads don't really come up in the strategy-wise. There's not really, it sounds like there's no concern that being played, but also you don't see the antics like on Anata where there's attempts to harvest the beads before they go out.
Yeah, no, Kanani and the beads, we were a lot more chill with it. And I don't know if that was necessarily something that hurt us or helped us. Like looking back at it, it's like maybe we could have put our beats, like me, Geraldine, and Nina could have put our beats together and gave Nina an idol. Like we could have done there. Like there are parts of it that you're like, maybe we should have been a little bit more
aggressive.
Yeah, aggressive, exactly, with the beads. But yeah, no, that and then also that kind of goes into when merge happens, right? Where we're like, okay, we have these beads, but now there's people that we don't know, and that we don't know if they have them or not, because all these stories are getting spread around that Deb didn't use a bead, she found an idol randomly, and like all these a lot of stories were happening once we got to that phase. But
talk to me about the idol rumors that you get, because when Chad comes and visits your camp earlier on, he drops some information for Lachey and Sam.
Yeah, so I find out later from Lachey and Sam that that Chad had told them that Deb, the idol that she played, wasn't a bead one, and she found it by a tree mail, which sends typically Sam, obviously, who thinks he's on the bottom and is on the bottom, to look in that area whenever she possibly can, including in the middle of the night when her and I couldn't sleep and we were collecting firewood. But she didn't know that I knew about that rumor being spread at that point, but she was definitely looking in that area. And I was like, okay, if this is true, I'm glad that I'm here to see this because, again, information is power. So even if she does find it, cool, great. Yeah, that was the main lie that was kind of spreading around camp because of Chad. And then again, also just the general, like, there's no way there isn't a random bag with a bead, right? To like make it easier for you, like, oh, instead of needing 2 beads, you only need one. You know, it seemed like that was what was going to kind of be the hidden thing around around our camps.
So you make it the merge, and a couple. So let's talk. Well, we kind of already talked about who you want to see come back from redemption.
Yeah.
I mean, so you were happy Nina and Janai were probably the 2 people you were most excited for. Trav and Sam, less so. Did you want any of the Nada players to come back?
Honestly, that was probably even more ideal because at least this was a conversation we were having kind of as a tribe of like, if an orange person comes back, that's someone who probably wants revenge on orange. Great. Love that. Like, I wanted Jay West to come back. One huge target. 2, I know that man would have been guns blazing at his tribe. So I was totally cool with him coming back. I felt like someone like another shield, like maybe Andrew or Colby, would have been also pretty decent as well. And then selfishly, just because I wanted to talk to her, was Deb. Again, I was talking earlier, like the motherly kind of vibes. Like I would hear Deb talk or like make her little quips, and it would just make me laugh from our mat because like I was just like, this is just this sweet woman that I just want to hug and talk to. But that was just not even a game thing. That was just me wanting to have her for conversation. But yeah, definitely Orange. I was totally down with that. I felt like if anybody maybe that I didn't want from Orange to come back was maybe Andrew, because I know that he had some pretty solid connections on Orange. So I feel like maybe he would not have been as malleable to me pull over to us. I knew that Colby was upset and knew that Jay West was very upset. At least that's how they were kind of coming off. So I was hoping that maybe one of them would come back because it would be a shield, but also just another number for us.
So what was your strategy coming into merge?
Oh gosh. Strategy coming into merge was very much figuring out when it was the right time to work with the other side. I knew, like, obviously going in, like, we had a numbers advantage, but we had the person from the Outcasts, right? So we had Nina. So that was kind of this person that, like, for me, I was more so hoping. I feel like I put a lot more trust and hope that she was still on our side than maybe some people. Also with Rob, again, I still, even though I wanted to build that trust with Rob, I still did keep him kind of at arm's length when it came to trusting him fully. Because I would feel like I was just waiting for him to strike, but I just didn't know when, which he was really good at hiding. So yeah, I just wanted to see when it was the right time, because I knew I didn't want to play a pagonging type game. Boring, boo, hiss tomato, like at some point mix it up. So
even though you were the one that would be blindsided.
Yeah. And then everyone started, yeah, exactly. Just God.
Thank you for your sacrifice for the TV product.
But I wanted to be a part of that. That phase of the game happened after me, and I was so upset. And I was so vocal about, like, when are we doing it? Let's do it. And then I was the one. Anyway. So yeah, I wanted to figure that out, and I also wanted to really check in again with the people that I had known from the past, of like with Chad and Allison, specifically Chad, because us being from the same season, again, we've never played a game together, but I really wanted to see how it was going to go. Chad seemed to really have his pulse on his side of the game, and I felt like he and I may, be able to like gel together. And when we did get together, we did like talk and say that, we made like a deal of like, if your name's coming out, like, I'll let you know. Even if it's something like, even if I can't do anything to help you, at least I will make you aware that your name is out there so you can try and do something for yourself, which we'll get to when my vote
seems like
happens.
he made good on that deal. Were you going to keep it on your end?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So he, to a point, he held his side of the deal, and so did I. So the first round, again, we can get to that with the first vote of the merge. The original plan, according to Chad, was that I was going to be the one that had the most votes with the split. It wasn't going to be Lachey. He gets all of these. He somehow last minute, and this is confirmed by like Aliana and other people as well, that like he convinced them to put more on Lachey and less on me, in the event of that idol being played correctly and all of those things. And then what happened with Juan, how we convinced Juan to vote for Ali, that like even if they played the idol correctly on Jess and then we played the idol correctly on Lachey, there was still one more vote than me and Ali.
Yep.
So it was a good plan. It was just that Nina went behind our backs and told them that we were going for Jess. So that was when she was starting her plot of revenge, which, hey, good on her. So that happened that round. And then I eventually, when we get to the next round, I hold up my end of letting her know towards that next one.
Talk to me about Allison, because again, she was on production your season survival challenge, and vice versa. You were on production for her season survival challenge.
Yes. So Allison and I, prior to merge, we had it was the first immunity challenge when we were both leading the blind for that final puzzle. So we were in the same starting area, and we were very excited. We're like talking to each other. We were figuring out, because we knew that there was some kind of reward. It ended up being just like a camp raid, but we were like, what is this going to be if we win? Like, blah blah blah. Like, or it was maybe not even camp raid, it was something else, because we ended up winning that. But something was like afoot that we were like, what's happening here? Could it be that one person goes to exile before the vote and they're not going to get voted out? So they start talking about like, if I won, if Kanane won, what names do I keep out of people's mouths, right? Or like, and vice versa. So we're having game talk. So I was interested to talk to her merge wise, but I feel like there was this wall of like, it was very much just like casual conversation with Allison. And even if we had game talk, it was very minimal. It was very small. I don't know if that was more so on my part or on her part, but the doors didn't really seem open. It seemed, if anything, like I would have to knock first, and I would have to knock pretty loudly for her to really want to actually like commit to working with me. For whatever reason, I don't know, but yeah.
You finally get to be in the same chair with Aliana. What was playing with her like?
I love her. Okay, so chaos is the first word. She chaotic. Absolutely loved it. Again, from a viewer standpoint, good TV. From being on the merch side with her, I was like, oh my God, like this woman is making up all these stories. Like, it just, everything that was coming out of her mouth, you just could not tell if it was genuinely the truth or she was just making up anything she could for it not to be her or for it to be someone on purple, and and just rocking the boat. Like literally, like Aliana taking both sides of the boat and going, who's gonna fall off first? Like that's just not the energy that she was giving. Which made it, it's like that I wanted to play with her, but I was like, whoa, wait, this is not really, I don't think this is what I expected. I don't know if I can like play with this person. Like, I don't know. And then a telling thing, which again, another mistake on my part, is that she tells me, morning of right before Lachey's vote, right before the first vote of the day, that Rob had just talked to her, and Rob tells her that I'm the kingpin of the Kanane people, and that I mentioned that she had played games before, even though I never said that because I knew that it was her first game. She literally told us in the car. So I think that that's what kind of worked for Rob, is that like that being said by Rob, because Rob was in the car and knew that was not said. It was like, I'm like, Allie, I was like, why would Rob like he was there. Why would he tell you a lie when clearly like he knows that that's not even possible? Like, yeah, that's so it was really, really hard for me to believe that she was telling me the truth. And Rob just did his work, and he gained enough of my trust back to where I trusted him. And I will say, looking back at the video of when he comes over, like, because I'm gonna confront him. So he comes over to me and Allie after she tells me that, and I like ask him like, "Did you say this?" And like looking back at, oh, he was lying straight. Like I was like, I don't understand how I didn't clock that he was lying. It was so his voice changed. He was stuttering, and I was like, there's these like basic tells that someone was lying to you. But I guess in that moment, it's just again, what 6 days, 5, 6 days in, I'm exhausted, right? And things aren't those tells aren't really as noticeable when you're that exhausted. And it was raining, and I was just like already stressed. And it just didn't make sense to me. So I had the wool pulled over my eyes by Rob, and I should have believed Aliana.
Aliana saying, I told you he was a terrible liar. You should have believed her.
You did. And I didn't believe you, and I'm sorry. Because truly, honestly, had I absolutely would have flipped on Rob at that moment. Like 100%. Because that was just so much information. And to call me the kingpin, I was like, oh, okay. Huge target on my back, even though I don't think I was the kingpin, and that's probably just my perspective. I'm sure other people think differently, and that's fine. In that moment, I was like, calling me a kingpin, I was like, I'm just here like vibing. Maybe I had more control than I realized, but in that moment, I was like, that's a weird thing to say.
Is there a point where you realize that like everyone is circling around you, we're ready to take you out, so you can like to claim you as their move? Like, is there a point you're like, oh shoot, I am like this is happening, or is it like when it's too late?
Not until we were at my tribal. That's when it happened, and we'll get there. But yeah,
we'll get there.
That's when it happened. Prior to, no, I felt like there were way bigger fish to fry than me, and so I felt pretty secure in my place until that dire moment.
Let's talk about another Rob moment that happens as the merge begins, namely Sam's bead is a big conversation point.
Yes. Yeah. Oh god, that whole bead debacle. So there was talk that before Sam left, that Sam gave Rob her bead, and that Rob had two, because Rob at one point found the string basically that the bead was on at tribal, but with no bead. It was just the string, and he like brought it to production. He told us like he brought it to production. They said it wasn't anything, blah blah blah, and it just felt like a weird story. It just because not everybody was there to like corroborate his claim. No one really saw it, so it was one of those things that information was kind of like up in the air. Like, okay, is that the truth? Are you making that story up because you do have a bead, but you want it to look like it was harmless, something like that? It was very confusing, which that leads into me looking through his bag to try and see if he had two beads or not while he was sleeping, which I did. And I did not find the other bead though, but I found a second set of instructions. So I'm thinking, okay, there's no reason you have two sets of instructions. You have a second bead. It must be Sam's bead. It ends up being Trav's bead. But like, even though I only found the one bead on his string, which again, good on him for not having it, or I don't know. Did he end up giving his bead somewhere? I don't remember. I don't think he did. No. I think he
his bead is played by Brandon now,
yes.
at the vote,
yes.
But like
yes. So in my head I was like, okay, now he only has one because he played, he gives Brandon his bead, and but again, the two sets of instructions, I was like, there's no reason you would have that. Truly, there's like what other explanation other than the fact that you have another bead on your person, and that that caused a lot of disarray and distrust. And that was prior to us merging too. That was still when we were Kanane. So that was yeah. That was a whole thing.
Two other members of the Orange Tribe you're meeting for the first time, Juan and Jess.
Yes.
And were you having conversations with them?
Yeah, I feel like initially I was having more conversations with Juan. Juan felt very, very much on the bottom of the totem pole when it came to the remaining Anata. And I was okay with, bringing him along. I thought I wanted to get to know Juan more. He seemed like a really cool guy, and I liked his personality. I could tell that he definitely was again also newer to these games, but I could definitely tell he had a very much a strategic mindset. And he was gung ho with going against some of his Anata. So it's kind of almost as if we got an Anata outcast who wanted to go against his tribe. Great, he's right here. That's awesome. That's a number for us. It's also a number for me whenever I wanted to try to maybe mix it up and play with a little bit more orange and less purple. And with Jess, we definitely had conversations, but it was not as many game conversations. I think my plan was, had Lachey not gone first, my plan was to allow Lachey and her to kind of see if they can maybe make something happen, and then kind of tagging along with that, that duo. I was because I knew Lachey would be like, hey, this is Isiah, this is my guy, trust him. But unfortunately, the two names were Lachey and Jess, so that was kind of a dud for my game. And I knew that she was close with Allison, but again, like I said, Allison, I feel like just there was no eagerness to really talk game or to go far together. So I felt like because that was dead, that there was really no reason to really try and solidify something really strong with Jess, because she was tied into people that weren't going to work with me.
So how does this? So talk about the decision to target Jessica this round, and how, and any other strategy that happened leading up to this first merge vote.
Yeah. Well, it was a huge scramble in the rain. Everyone was everywhere. It definitely though became apparent that it was purple versus orange. Because Orange's strategy was to tell each person had a name, and that is the name that they told all of purple. So we literally at one point when purple all came back together, we were like, well, I heard it's Brandon. Well, I heard it's Isiah. Well, I heard it's Rob. Well, I heard it's Geraldine. We all heard everyone's name, and we're like, okay, cool. That's the strategy they're going with. Great, awesome. For our side, I can't fully remember, but I think our strategy was to tell Juan the name we wanted him to vote for, which was Aliana, because we wanted to try to have that extra vote on her, but not let him know what our plan was in case he was still on their side. So he was not made aware of Jess being the main target. He was told that it was Allie. I don't even really remember the reason why Jess was the main.
There's a lot of discussion of finding the middlest player, the one you don't think anyone's going to play the idol.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably where it kind of came from. I was not the one to bring up Jess's name. It was definitely, I was just kind of, for that vote, I was not leading the charge. I was just like, what are we doing? This group, what are we doing? Where are we going? Let's just figure it out. Because I didn't really have at that moment, any targets in my mind. Because it was the first merge vote, I obviously just didn't want it to be any of my people, but it ended up being one of my people.
Talk about the decision to give Brandon the beads.
So Brandon, I think that's kind of where Brandon's paranoia kind of started. It was very minimal, but it was there. I think Brandon definitely felt like he was a huge threat, right? He had won that individual immunity when we were still tribes. He was definitely a workhorse when it came to our tribal challenges. He was very sociable. He was a very strong contender with the tension pole one. He was just kind of a very frontal threat on all aspects. And I think that was, a pretty decent read when it came to how things were kind of squaring up. So I felt like we were thinking that that's where it would have gone. I don't remember if I had heard Brandon's name from anybody on Orange or if somebody had heard Brandon's name, but I just remember that was my perspective. I was like, that kind of makes sense. I was like, I can see where maybe they go for one of our like.
But are you getting information that your name is also like being floated as a target, or are you just like, I can't trust that?
So yeah, so that's when Chad talks to me and we check in. He's like, hey, he was like, your name is going to be out there. He was like, it's split between you and Lachey, but it's going to be Lachey, not you, because I am talking to people. And I was like, okay, great. And in my head, I'm like, okay, yeah, even though it's split, I was like, okay, the plan is we go for Jess. If somehow they get it correct and they play it correctly, Brandon plays it on Lachey, because that's the name we're hearing. And so I try my best to let it be known without letting it be too known, in case we have some kind of spy, right? Which again we did, and we had Nina. That Lachey is the one that should have the idol being played for her if they play it correctly on Jess. And so when we get to that tribal, that's what happens, right? Jess pulls out the idol, plays it correctly. Brandon stands up, and I kid you not, Brandon's standing there. He looks at me, and I shake my head, and I dart my eyes at Lachey. I'm like her. I'm like to her, like very physically. I'm like, I don't care at that moment. And he sees it, and he tells me, that's what he read. He read what I was saying, but he plays it on himself, and I don't understand why. Like, that was a moment I was like, Brandon.
It would feel terrible to go out the round you play an idol on someone else.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where I had to kind of remind myself afterwards, right? Like, obviously I was very distraught and very upset that Lachey was gone, but I had to put myself in his shoes of like, if that were me, like, would I self-preservation, you know what I mean? And a lot of different factors can come into play there. But I think what it was driving me, wild, was like, my gut and the call was right. Like, if that was what we should have done. It's not what happened, but things could have easily shifted in our favor a little bit more had that gone our way.
Was this is it this round or next round you have Chad do stuff with his beads to prove trust?
That's it's like a mixture. I think it's a mixture between Juan's round and Allie's round. It's kind of like
the next two rounds.
Yeah, it's like a multiple step process for Chad.
So I want to do a little what if here. So let's pretend Jessica does go out. How would you have liked to see the kind of the merge proceed from there?
So if Jess had gone out at that point, we would have had 6 purple, 4 orange.
Yeah.
So at that point, that's probably where I would have been like, okay, let's mix things up. Let's play a little bit more of a melting pot. I wanted to work with Chad further. Allie probably, if we went for like an orange, Allie was probably going to go. If it was purple, if I targeted a purple, probably Rob. It probably would have been, Allie or Rob. And for me, in that perspective. And then from that point, maybe ping-ponging a little bit. The people I never would have gone for were probably going to be Lachey and Jerry. I think for me, it would have been kind of like a back and forth between purple and orange. It probably would have been so Jess, then probably Rob, then probably Allie, then probably Brandon, because I know Jerry would probably want to keep Nina, and I would kind of go with the girls. Then I would go for probably Allison, then Nina, then Chad, and then probably end up with my 2. Because I felt like, even though those were my 2 girls, I felt also I could beat them both at the end.
Question from Lachey. Did Chad tell you about that first vote before Lachey told you that Juan told her that they were splitting it?
Oh, before you told me that. Oh my God. He told me that after you told me that they were splitting. Lachey told me that they were splitting. I don't think I remember if I remember who. I just remember that they were actually splitting the vote. And then I found out on our way to tribal, or around our way to tribal, that it was going to be between me and Lachey. And that's when Chad kind of spoke up and was like, it was gonna be you, but now it's not.
So Lachey goes out. You lose a really close ally. Is there any fallout for you after this before the next challenge?
No, not really any fallout. Just kind of a reassessment of, okay, what do I do now? And also feeling like if I was supposed to be the initial target, I'm the next target, right? Lachey's gone. That was the cover up. Like, that was Chad saving me then. This next round, I'm not going to be safe. I need to win immunity. Like, that was like my goal in mind was like to win immunity this next round, praying to God that I could. And thank God it was a challenge that I felt very confident in. With the
How long were you out there for?
Say it again.
How long were you out there spinning the ball in a circle?
Oh God, I couldn't tell you.
You've seen the video version they've released, right?
Yes,
I just like speed it up 5 times or something like that.
I want to say we were probably doing that maybe 30 minutes. I don't know if Josh is still here. I feel like at least 30 minutes. It got to the point, truly, not just like him talking slowly and softly, right? And the rain and it's cold, but like it's the white noise of the ball going around, and it's the trying to focus on the ball, but also focusing on a point like past the ball that I'm like, just trying to hone in and focus and just like center myself. And there were times truly where I went, like I drifted for like a few moments, and I was like, oh, no. And I would lose my speed, but I would get it back up. That white noise of that ball just going around and around, it truly does become this cycle, and it kind of becomes almost like hypnotic in a way, which was not fun to deal with, but we got through it.
So you went in. So isn't it between you and Juan at the very end there?
It was between me and Juan.
Yeah.
And I truly thought I was done for. Like, I was like, he's gonna keep going. Like,
if Juan wins here, do you go out?
I think I would have gone out. I think so. Okay. I think that Rob probably would have struck then. Again, especially with me being apparently that other target from Orange. So Orange already would have probably been targeting me. Rob would have been totally okay with that. So I think I probably would have gone. But that's it.
You win immunity, and you push for Aliana. Was that your ideal target?
It was only because of the erratic, stories that were being told, and I'm hearing from other people that she's also telling them random things, and like nothing was really like adding up, and so it sucks because it was something that I did want to work with, but like it was one of those kind of situations when I was talking about with Sam, where like I felt like it was someone I could not kind of like be like, okay, what are we doing? Let's rein it back a little bit. Let's figure it out. Let's be calm. Let's chill. And I just don't think in that moment I could have worked with her going forward. If we had a chance to, again, if a swap happened or if we were on the same tribe in the beginning, I definitely think that would have been a different scenario. But just going into the game so late, it just felt very like, okay, this person is a wild card, not really sure where she's going to go with things or where her mind is really at. Other than blindsiding Rob, which again, to me, that would have been the best move for me. But I made the mistake and didn't listen, and that's totally on my fault. But yeah, so that was the one that I was looking at, because at least with Alice, I knew that Allison and Chad were probably never going to go for each other, and I knew Jess and Allison were going to go for each other. So I was like, all right, let's do Allie. Why not? So yeah.
Yeah, so I think two things this vote. Talk about Chad and his 2 beads.
Yeah, so God, this web of beads and lies. Okay, so let's see if I can remember this. I was told that Allison gave him, he had Allison's bead and then someone else's bead. I think it was Allie's, or it was oh god, it was someone else's from Orange that he had, and he
probably Allie's.
Yeah, probably Allie's. And he told me that after, I think this was after Lachey's vote, he was like, I'm leaving them at camp to show trust to you all, to Purple, that like I'm not trying to pull anything. So during the wand vote, he left them there. He told me that afterwards he was going to give me Allison's bead, and he was going to, I think he told me I could be wrong, thought he was going to give me the other bead as well, or he's going to give Brandon the other bead. I think that's what he said. So he can give Brandon the other bead from Allie or from Jess or whoever. And I said, okay. I was like, cool, awesome. Just hold that. I will say though too, where I come into my side of the deal of like telling each other when our name is out, is while we were scrambling for the wand vote, Chad's name was coming out of like Rob's mouth and was coming out of like people from Purple. And so I was like, to Purple was like, I don't think we should. I was like, he's playing like in the middle pretty well. I think that's something that we can maybe utilize for maybe a couple more votes. But at that point, we did realize that he was playing a really good middle game, kind of bouncing between both groups, which again, great to him, because it was a known fact. Like we all picked up on it, and people weren't
let it go.
Yeah, and I tried to, as many times as he was saying, that he was a poker player and that he likes to take risk and whatever. Like I was trying to be like, guys, he's saying that because this is fun to him. like this is not just like a little fun comment. It's like, no, this is like he's saying like, yeah, like I'll do what I have to do, and I'm cool with doing it. But it didn't hold water to some other people. But yeah, so I told him like, hey, I was like, your name came up. I'm trying to turn it away. Basically returning the favor. You should be good. Blah blah blah. Kept him in the loop of like what was going on with Allie being and then he was thankful for that. I was like, cool, we're on even playing field. I'll get the beat after this tribal, and we'll go from there. And then obviously that did not occur either. The Allie vote did not happen that round.
So I'm curious about Juan. He ends up voting for Nina. Like, so you roped him in the previous round. You got on the throw vote at Aliana. Why not say round 2? This time we're with you.
Yeah, I don't know. My thought process was that he was going to just vote again. He was going to vote Allie again, and that's do the same vote. That's what we did before. I don't know why he threw this random Nina vote. I never got that answer. At least from him to me.
I go watch a 2-hour interview.
Yeah, right. I know. I have to watch his. I don't know personally why. But that was definitely a shock to me when I saw Nina's name being written down just once, and it was odd. Especially because I know that he felt like he was on the bottom between that group, and I knew that from the previous vote when he did vote Allie, that he was no longer really on their side at that point. Yeah. So I was like, why not vote with numbers? Try to at least get a tie, if anything, or something like that. So yeah, but yeah.
So this is the round where all the women in the tribe are going to link up and come together for a vote. Was this something you were noticing, or was it like the results of this tribal council was a big like what just happened?
Oh yeah, no, it was that was interesting. Was not expecting that at all. Juan's blindside was a blindside to me. That name, I think maybe came up like once from someone, but I was like, oh, we're not doing that. Like everyone seemed very like, okay, we're going for Allie, because we just couldn't trust like what, again, things that were coming out of her mouth. We weren't sure if they were true or not. And then finding out after, like with the fallout of like seeing that like Jerry was a part of that. Right. And Nina I can understand, but like Jerry was like, Jerry, you didn't let me know. I was like, Listen, it's not. I obviously it couldn't have been me. I had immunity, but like, if that's what we were going, if we were cutting off that that middle person. Cool. Like I would have done that.
Mhm.
And so yeah, that is definitely a shock to me because the story between the girls were like they were. I think they were kind of like doing damage control with each other. It's like the purple girls were kind of blaming the orange girls, and the orange girls were blaming the purple girls for like who came up with the plan, right? To kind of diffuse the boys because the boys were like the purple boys specifically. So me, Brennan, and Rob were like, like what happened? Why are we? What the hell? Because I'm sure at that moment too, like Rob probably did want to get Allie out because of the whole her blowing up his game or trying to blow up his game.
Yeah.
So he was like, oh crap, okay, something else is going on here. And then the fear, obviously the fear of like a girls alliance being like sticking through like the whole time. We're like, oh crap, we're at 9 and it's girl majority. Oh crap, we could just get picked off one by one. So that was, and that happened to me in Can You Survive? We got final 9, 4 guys, 5 girls. We woke up that morning. We were all there. All of a sudden, all the girls went to the bathroom, and I sat there and I went, "Oh God!"
Wait, did your COAS season have an actual successful women's alliance for
It did. It did. Yeah,
oh my God.
it did.
Those are rare.
At 9, they made a final 5 deal because there had not been a woman winner at that point, and they stuck through. They picked all the first 6 members of the jury were all male presenting, and the 5 women went to the final 5. So I was like also kind of having PTSD of like, oh God, I was like, this is it. We're screwed. The girls are going to stick together. But yeah.
One advantage you have against a women's alliance forming is at this point, because there is no swap, because Nina and Gerald essentially don't feel comfortable walking to the final 5 with this with Allie, Allison, and Jessica basically saying like, look, if we do that, we're getting 4th and 5th, and we're not comfortable with that.
Right. So that's where I think that's kind of what I was hoping to convey in that moment, right? Of like, this can't continue to be a thing. That would not make any sense.
Yeah,
like,
and which is what happens at the final 9 is that Gerald and Nina bounce back to you.
Right, exactly. So it was in that moment, it was like when we get to the next vote, it was nice to be like, okay, cool. We're not just sticking with going against all the male presenting people. We're playing a more, bounce back kind of game. But again, we saw that, it was another orange and then, another orange. So we're like, okay, we're kind of getting into that Pagonging territory, which in that moment I was like, okay, I definitely want to get a purple out because this is not the vibe. I'm not trying to do the whole Pagong thing, but
So at the final 9, kind of walk me through the process here. Rob has immunity. You've just been blindsided with Rob and Brandon. What are you trying to do here?
Yeah. So yeah, after trying to eat a freaking century egg, 2 of them, hate them. Traumatizing experience. Fun fact: I literally
worse than the sauerkraut and cat food.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Yeah. Fun fact though, right before that challenge, they went around asking us like, what would be the one thing that you would not want to eat in this challenge? And I literally said the century egg. I was like, century egg.
Have you had it before?
Huh?
Have you had it before?
No, I've not. I just it looked evil. It just I can't like that or like balut. Like I was like one of those 2 things.
Okay, so I've had balut in a game.
Mm-hmm.
It tastes like hard-boiled egg. It's not the taste of the problem. It's crunchy.
Yeah. See, like texture, and like that's what the thing for me, like with that yolk, the like gelatinous thing, it felt like slime in my mouth, and I was just like my throat literally like said nope. Like I tried at multiple times to swallow the first one, and my body was like, you're not putting that down here. So sorry. You put down cat food just now. That's fine. Whatever's in your mouth right now cannot enter. It was. I tried, but yeah. So that happens, and yeah, Rob gets immunity, and so I think in my mind it was very much like, okay, let's go with the plan that we were supposed to go with. Everybody, let's just move the train along. Let's not try to, because for those past 2 rounds, I was in a way blindsided, right? Like we knew that like the potential of the idol being played on Jess could have happened. So like that wasn't really a blind side, but like I lost like one of my biggest allies, right? And then I was blindsided the next vote. So I was like, I really could just use one vote where I know what's going on.
Yep.
Because I hate not knowing what's going on. So yeah, that was very much kind of my thing of just like, okay, we're just doing Allie now because Allie just, you know, again, we can't trust her. Like, can't trust what she's saying. She could be telling the truth. Like, you know, same spiel we had been trying to have for, you know, the previous rounds about Allie. So yeah.
And you mentioned before, you know, there's this whole promise with Chad. He leaves the beads behind. Aliana goes out. He gives you a bead.
Yeah.
That kind of gets derailed at final 10. At final 9, is it happening or what's going on there with it?
Yeah. So he does hold his promise and he does give me Allison's bead. If I remember correctly, he told me that the other bead he couldn't get from Allie, or yeah, I think it was like he couldn't get it from Allie or something like that. But what it was is that Allie asked for it back.
Yeah.
So that's why he couldn't get the other bead to Brandon or to myself. And that was, hey, like that. It is what it is. I had another bead, right? So I was like, okay, I have 2. I was like, lovely. I have 2 beads. This is great. And I'm like, and Geraldine's here with her one. That's awesome. I was like, because at that point I knew Geraldine, if we had to use it for any reason, she was the one that I 100% trusted to put those beads together and to make an idol.
Well, this is, I think, even more important because the beads expire at final 8, right? So we're going to the last round. They're valid. Prior to Chad giving you a bead, both sides did not have enough to actually make an idol. Both sides had like 2, right?
Yeah.
You and Geraldine had a bead. Allison, Aliana had a bead. Nina's sitting on 3, but she hasn't
Nina had a bottle full of them. Yeah. So yeah, we. Oh, ask your question again. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So essentially, this is the last round beats going to be played. You have 2. Geraldine has 1. Why not?
Oh, here we go. This is the point where this is what I've been like. This is my trauma of Reelfoot for this round. So
okay. Final 8 trauma. Let's do this. Walk me through this round.
Yeah. So okay. Okay. So first with this challenge, right, was the swimming with the memorization, right? This is where mistake number 1 happens for me.
You helped someone win.
Yeah, I sure did. I helped the person who blindsided me win the damn challenge. Had I not, so for those who hadn't seen it, it was like 8-4-2-1, right? So like bracket style almost. So like final 4 into final 2, I was the first one finished. And prior to the challenge starting, we know that McDonald's is on the line for a reward. And I was like, I've been talking about McDonald's since like day 2. I'm craving McDonald's. And I was like, you know who would be really good at this challenge? Probably Rob. So I say, hey Rob, if you or I win, or if I win, I'll take you to the reward. If they let us take somebody. If you win, you take me. And we agreed. I said, perfect. So my hungry, desperate self for McDonald's saw a moment where I was done and Rob was struggling on that last on that pattern. And so I was like, Rob, it's da 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 da. He's like, okay. And he's like trying to get it. He's like, what? I was like, duh, and I was vocally telling him the answer. And he eventually does get it after like maybe like 3-4 tries. He eventually gets it. And he ends up beating me in that final round because and it sucks because I feel like I could have, that last one really like I struggled on that last one. And it was a very easy pattern, but my brain shut off. So then he ends up winning because, and I know that what could have happened, right, was had I not helped him, Jess was behind him. Jess had the correct order. Jess would have been there with me. And I know that I'm a better swimmer than Jess. And I more than likely, unless something happened, I feel confident that I would have beaten Jess and I would have been to take that round.
It feels like Jess could have been the secret challenge piece of the season if Rob wasn't there, because Jess comes up close in the first food challenge. She's in it for this water challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that was mistake number 1.
With McDonald's, because you got McDonald's.
Yeah, I got McDonald's. I got a cheeseburger and some coldish fries, and I got some texts from friends and like support, which was really nice to read. But yeah, so that was mistake number one. Mistake number two. So this happened right before we were going to Allie's tribal. I was like, I'm just gonna grab both beads and just have them on my person in the tribal from now on. Like, I'm just gonna have them on me because, again, prior to I was not aware of what was going on in those two tribals, right, with Juan and Lachey. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have these because clearly something's not working. And I'm like, I grabbed the bead that Chad gave me, and then I go in our pouches. We had like inner pockets, and I kept my bead there the entire time and never took it out. And so I'm like looking through my bag, and I like pull out everything out of my bag. I pull out even the instructions, and I can't find my bead. I'm like, oh my God, where is it? Like, what the hell? Like, I literally, like, my bag was empty and I could not find it. I was like, oh my God. Then my brain goes, was the string that Rob found somehow, because at that point we had taken in that tribal, we had taken all of our stuff with us. It's like, oh my God, did my thing fall out of my bag? Like, and they said, like, if you lose your thing, like, oh well. So I was like, oh my God, did I lose my bead? Like, oh crap. Okay, I only have one. Shit, that sucks. And what I should have done is to only tell like Jerry and not anybody else, but I kind of did tell the rest of Kanane because I was too trusting. Because they had known prior that I had two. So I wanted them to at least be aware, like, hey, I don't. So like, I'm sorry, we can't make a move unless we find a third bead. So I wanted to be like up and frontal about that because I still thought Kanane strong in that moment. So then that ends up, so a little fast forward after my vote out, and I'm in the house and I'm in the jury room and I'm emptying my bag. Go through that pocket again. And that pocket just happens to be a lot deeper than I expected. And I find my bead. And I wanted to throw myself out of a window because I kid you not, when we are sitting there at tribal, the tribal that I'm about to get blindsided in, I felt pretty good, like going up to him, like, okay, we're doing Chad, like this is they're finally gonna get rid of him because he was playing the middle game and people were like, both sides didn't trust him. We're like, cool, we'll do that. Feeling good. Answer our questions, or our tribal questions. Feeling good. As soon as the voting starts, there's something. It's a weird, like, not a sixth sense thing, but there's something that goes on in my body with like a gut feeling. I know people say that they have it. I have a gut feeling, and then I have this like gut feeling where like, and whenever I've had that feeling, I don't want to like sound cocky, but I've always been right when that aggressive amount of gut feeling happens to me.
It's a premonition.
Yeah, and that moment happened while voting was, and I was like, why do I feel like, I'm like, why do I have this? Like, I shouldn't have this. And I look over, and like Nina is like the body languages change. No one's looking in my direction. The energy, the only people that are like, I look normal are like Jerry, and then Rob, who goes like this. I'm gonna be Rob. He looks at me, he goes, and just like, I look at Rob, he goes, and just smiles at me with his charming little freaking smile, and I was like, okay, cool, yeah. And I get up to go vote, and I literally I write Chad's name down, and I literally go, I think I'm being blindsided right now, but I hope not. And I pulled my vote. Like I just knew. I was like, something in the air within 10, 15 seconds changed. So adding on to, again, that posting of me finding my bead, had I had my two beads, right? In that moment, when I had that gut feeling, I would have voted whatever. I would have gone to Gerald, like when he asked, when Amos asked the title, I would have stood up, I would have went to Geraldine, and I would have said, hey, I don't feel right. This is the last time to play it. I'm telling you, I do not feel good. Can you please give me your bead so I can play this idol on me? Because I feel like something's happening. And Geraldine has openly said like she would have at that point, because there was no reason to not. Like, She's like, whatever, might as well. If you feel weird, like if you're wrong, you're wrong. And if you're right, you're right. Cool. So I would have, had I looked a little bit deeper in my bag, Stephen, I would have gotten an idol and I would have played it correctly. And Chad would have gone at 8 and it would have changed so much.
So let's kind of recap. So had you won immunity, do you still target Chad here, or do you just flip on Rob?
In that moment, I think I probably still would have went on Chad because that's not when I had suspicion on Rob. I think I was willing to go for one more orange, which would have been Chad, because I did feel threatened by him. And then I feel like I didn't feel any kind of threat level from Allison or Jess, and I probably would have attached to them and then kind of maybe brought like Geraldine along and probably worked with like Geraldine, Allison, and Jess a little bit more and started knocking off Brandon, Rob, Nina, because those were big threats for me on Kanane, because Rob is Rob. Brandon, again, like I said earlier in the podcast, like every like factor of the game he was really good at. I feel like he would have had a really nice story at the end. And then Nina had the outcast thing, and that would have just been a winning story as well. And on top of what we learned after, right, with all those beats. But yeah, so I probably still would have gone for Chad had I won. And then from that point on, probably maybe Rob would have been my first purple target. And then it would have been Brandon, then Nina, and then hopefully me and Geraldine could, survive a Final Four situation. And I probably would, honestly, if that were the case, I think it probably would have gone to fire. I think Allison and Jess would not have voted for each other. Me and Geraldine wouldn't have voted for each other, and it might have been a fire situation.
So is Brandon, we talked a little bit about Brandon's paranoia. Is it a little bit justified given that you did not have endgame intentions for him?
Yeah, I mean, yes. I think the paranoia obviously is valid to a point. I think that when it started, though, it didn't need to start when it did, because like he was not on my radar at that point. Like I said, maybe like 6th, 5th, right? And we were at 9th, 8th when he started. Like I will never forget us walking to down the hill to the pond and being like, hey, so I'm hearing that you're talking about me and bringing up my name, and I had not done that, and I was like, whoa, huh, who, what, like, what are you talking about? And that was genuine. Like I had not to that point talked like to anybody really. I might have mentioned like my pecking order like Geraldine, but that was really kind of it. So yeah, his paranoia is obviously warranted, but I think in the moment when he was having a major paranoia, it wasn't at that time wasn't necessary. But hey, it's the game.
So are you more disappointed that you didn't play an idol, or more that you didn't essentially idol Chad out with his own advantage?
I probably a little bit of both. I think I'm more disappointed that I didn't have the chance to play an idol when literally the smallest thing I had to do was just reach my hand a little bit further down in the bag. Like,
so in your mind, are you considering yourself voted out with an idol in your pocket? Are you putting yourself in that category? Because technically, you only have 2/3 of an idol. I don't know if you round up or round down that. In that
yeah,
case.
right. Yeah. I mean, you can consider that for sure. Just because I think, I guess I could consider that because the scenario would have been that I would have played it had I, because the idol would have been played, with the assist from Geraldine, obviously. But
if they do this idol pieces or parts of an idol again, you're saying they need to be large and bulky. So like you really can't lose them.
Just do better at keeping track of them. Don't pull a me. Put it somewhere else that you know for a fact that you're always going to find it. Because don't trust the bags that they provide you. Make sure you know how deep the pockets are. That was my downfall.
So, what was your reaction seeing the votes come through?
Oh God. So because I had that gut feeling, and my name, I had not heard my name at any point in the scramble. As soon the first time that my name showed up, I was like, yep. Like it confirmed. I just needed one vote, and I was like, I'm gone. Like there was no inkling of like, oh, like it's just a couple of votes for me. No, I knew immediately because at that point it was one of those situations where like if you didn't hear your name, that's kind of like something you should pay attention to. And I think I just felt so confident that Chad was being looked at as a bigger threat because he truly, strategically, he was a bigger threat than me in that moment. So I trusted in the fact that people saw that and didn't consider like, hey, you haven't heard your name in a while, other than like the Jess vote. So like, or the Jess vote, the Lachey vote. Maybe you should like be weary of that. And I just decided to stick with my guns that I knew where things were going. But Rob, I guess I've heard last minute, just he told people he had the numbers and they all said, cool.
One more what if. So like, let's say you do play the idol successfully, you're the minority vote, you take out Chad with 2 votes.
Mm-hmm.
How would you have regrouped given that everyone just tried to take you out?
Oh, it would have been, ooh. I have said I probably would have lit a fire. I like truly would have been like, okay, so no, I would have, my whole thing was at that point, probably, fighting from the bottom, having to try to win immunity as much as possible. Like that would have been my goal, but immediately would have been like, okay, whose plan was it? Like what happened? Like, I would want to figure out and see if people pointed fingers. And hopefully if they pointed fingers at Rob, I immediately would have jumped on the chain of like, so you're not looking at Rob? Or again, I'm like, this should be the person you're going at. Obviously, he was immune, right? But like he is not immune. Hello, why are we not looking at this guy? Like, why are we letting this guy lead the charge? He's clearly the biggest threat. Like, I would have completely just, I would have flipped lids had that happened successfully. Because and I know Geraldine would have been right there too. Geraldine. She, as we saw, she's a spicy one.
Geraldine fights to vote out Rob for multiple occasions here on out and just
correct
with the traction.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I know that her and I would have been like, "What's going on? What are you not seeing? What is not clicking?" But unfortunately, did not get that chance.
Yeah. So talk to me about your philosophy as a juror. What do you look for in a winner?
Yeah. So I'm someone that. No matter what, I go into a jury situation always wanting to vote for the best like player, right? Like even if someone that I'm the closest with, like my bestie in the game makes it to the final, if they don't have a better story and a better game than the person they're sitting next to or the people they're sitting next to in a final 3 situation, they're not going to get my vote. It's something that is something that I hold very like true. Like I vote for who I think played the best game, no matter if I spent a day or 7 days with them.
I want to dig into that a little. So you said story and game. Should we be conflating story and game? Are these 2 separate things, or does one convey the other?
I think that something, again, to kind of add on to like what I look for in a winner is someone who can kind of blend both of those together. I think someone who can pull in the right things that they about themselves and about their journey as a person in and out of the game, and kind of tie it into how they are as a person in the game as a strategist and as a player. Like if you can find that like nice mix and that meld, that's something that can easily sell me. I don't like to see where it's like, almost as someone who likes to play very genuine to who he is, like I don't come in acting fake, right? Or creating a persona. Like Isiah is Isiah.
There was a brief attempt for seconds.
A brief attempt, and it didn't last long. And the thing is, like even like my dramatic moment right before the Trav blindside, like that was like I can be very dramatic, and I am an actor, I am a performer, I know how to put on a show. It's what I do. So that is generally what I can do. Is it something that I like to do? No, that's not what I like to do in my everyday life. I don't like to make up stories about people or about things and pull the rug out from people. But in that scenario in Survivor, sometimes you have to. But yeah, so I definitely like to find that good mix between story and game, and hopefully see this kind of combination of a person.
So coming into Final Tribal Council, were you leaning initially one way or the other?
Honestly, I wasn't really leaning one way or another. I think I was still kind of coming down from finding out from like Brandon and everyone and Nina, right? That like Rob was the curator of my blind side because that was something that I had to sit with. And Jess also told me as well. Like that's something I had to sit with was like the person that I made a very strong like personal connection with, who I probably he's not the person from Kanane that I thought would have maybe plotted my blind side. I thought it might have been like Brandon, right, who was already paranoid that I was talking about him or something like that. Or maybe Nina getting her revenge because we voted her, something like. And so Rob was definitely not the person I thought would have been the one to do that. So I was kind of still emotionally like feeling that, but again, I wanted to go in with that emotion and still have that be a part of my question, which obviously it was towards Rob, but still not be like not Xing him out just because he got one up on me. Like it's a move, and I game respects game. With Allison, it was I didn't get to play with her, so I couldn't X her out either because I don't know what game she played. I'm gonna find out. I found out a little bit from from her Anata people that were on jury with me, but I was eager to see her perspective of her game and was willing to hear that out as well.
I think it is interesting looking at, because you asked a unique question to both players, and your question to Allison is, you say, I want to know more about you, your journey, and your game. Did you feel like you got that from her in both her jury answer as well as her jury speech as a whole?
Yeah, I feel like she answered my question pretty thoroughly, especially because the detail of it was that I was asking like kind of like before the game started and like after the games after at this point like where I just want to get this culmination, this mixing pot of it, everything. Because again, I spent a day with her, not even like 3/4 of a day before I was gone. So, it wasn't a lot of time. And yeah, I think she hit the marks that I was hoping to hear. Yeah, she didn't leave me, at least personally for me with my question, leave me wanting more, maybe with some answers to some other people's questions. But for me, I was satisfied.
So what tipped the decision between Allison and Rob for you?
So one thing, okay, there's a couple of things really. A main thing was I felt like there was a sense of cockiness when it came to, oh, I found all of these lucky signs and this is meant to be and this is my game. I did everything perfectly. Like when she was asked if there was anything she would change in her game and she said no. For me, that is a cop-out answer. Even if you truly do believe that, you're talking to a jury who doesn't believe that. Make something up. Like truly, you say that you wish you didn't vote this way, that you chose a different position on a challenge that you lost, like something. Just even if you don't believe it, just give something for the jury to sit on, right? Or to maybe kind of pull that. When she gave that answer, I was like, okay, well, that gives me nothing. That doesn't put more points in your bank for me based on your answer. Like, so that was kind of a thing. And then a big selling point for me, which I think was an amazing move for Rob, was obviously Allison said that she had 5 number ones. And then Rob flips the coin and he's like, well, you had 5 number ones and they're all on the jury. I had 1 number one and she's right next to me. And I was like, oh, like that. When you take someone's answer, put it in your own, and then flip it to make you look better, I was like, in a respectful way too, not even just like diminishing her, but like in a very tasteful way. I was like, wow. I also don't think that, I think the 5 number ones comment was not a smart one either. I don't think that's something even again, if that's true, don't say that. That's something you don't say, especially when, all of your 5 number ones are on the jury and they're sitting across from you, wondering if they're going to vote for you. Like it just, there was jury management was a little rocky. I feel like Rob's jury management, and again, also being a clear threat and being vulnerable for so many rounds and not a single person, well, except for Geraldine, a single person was really looking at him. It was a commended to his game of like he was an obvious threat, but he downplayed, and I did try to mention this throughout the game, that I felt like he was downplaying his threat level when it came to him as a player, and also him speaking. I was saying this on the jury. When he would answer his like tribal questions, he was very like kind of like himbo, like surfer dude, like very just like like answer the questions very simply, right? There wasn't a lot of explanation, like a lot of just like words to it. He kind of like was more like laid back and chilled with those answers. And I kept saying, I was like, watch us if he makes it to the end. I was like, the switch is gonna flip, and we're gonna get the more eloquent answers. We're gonna get the longer answers. We're gonna actually see that he does know what he's talking about. Because I felt like he was playing that like I'm just this big guy, but I'm a teddy bear. You know what I mean? Like he just gave very much that like I'm a big guy, but I'm sweet and I got a soft heart. And I don't know what that accent is. That's not Rob's accent, but you know what I mean. So I'll be Rob. But that's kind of the vibe he gave, and I think that's exactly what he did. And he sold his game pretty well. I will say I was definitely in the booth though. I did sit there for a bit and I did contemplate. I wasn't after the answers. I wasn't 100% like I'm going Rob. I did sit there because there were points made in Allison's answers, but also again I'm taking in what I learned from the jury and from what actually again because her perspective is her perspective, but like hearing the actuality of some things that she claimed to do or moves she claimed to make, since that wasn't necessarily all true, and she wasn't again aware enough to admit that maybe she didn't have this perfect game. That was kind of the tipping point for me.
Is there anything else about your experience in game you want to talk about?
I don't know. If anything, I'm just really thankful that I got a chance to play this game. Reelfoot is obviously known as like literally one of the OGs, like one of the biggest games possible. And it was an honor to play it. I got to represent so many different communities. I got to represent myself. I got to play with another disabled player for the first time, which was like such a cool experience. I never thought that would ever happen. I just met some really, really cool people that are going to be in my life for forever and ever and ever. And yeah, I'd probably say that was probably the best experience so far that I've had in a live game. It's just
that's high compliments.
Yeah, every part of it. And this is coming from someone who I was super nervous. Like a gay black guy in the middle of Western Tennessee, like I was terrified. Truly was. Walking to Walmart, I was scared. I felt like I was out of my element, and I also hadn't played a game in so long. I was like, what if I don't have it anymore, right? Like, what if I lost my zhuzh? What's gonna happen there? And I feel like I kind of picked it up off the ground, and still have it in me. So yeah, just don't have that crown yet. Hopefully in the future something will happen. I've said as soon as I get a crown from somewhere, I'm retiring. I just want one win. So hey guys, if you ever play a game with me, just let me win, and then you don't have to see me ever again in a game.
Right, so if Reelfoot was going to run a Redemption Island style season where they're going to bring you and one other person back to be like tribe captains, who would you want your competitor to be in your rig season?
Ooh, if it's from Anata, I would want it to be Aliana, and if it was from Kanane, I would want it to be Ooh. For Spice, I would say I want it to be Trav, but personally, I would want it to be Nina. I would want the two disabled players to go at each other.
So I have a couple rapid fire wrap up questions for you. You ready?
Yeah, ready. Let's do it.
If you can go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice before the season began, what would you tell yourself?
Ooh, be more observant.
You played a couple games. Do you prefer swaps or no swaps?
Oh God, swaps.
Should every live reality survivor game have a redemption component?
Yes, I do.
So Will Survival Challenge do a Redemption Island or some sort of style like that someday? Is
I
that coming eventually?
I hope so. I would love that. I'm waiting for them to do that. I'm hoping they do.
I expect this year they cast a 20-person season. They'll have some sort of redemption element.
Yeah, for sure.
What was your favorite challenge?
Ooh, besides the eating challenge, because I love an eating challenge. I really do.
Minus the last thing you ate, yeah.
That was the last thing I ate, but I love those things. So those are usually pretty fun for me. Oh god, there's so many. I'm like rapid firing through my brain, trying to remember them all. I would probably say. Oh, I've always wanted to do the counting challenge. I like the counting challenge, and which I found out too with that one. Had I beaten Brandon like speed wise, I was actually closer to the number. So like I'm kind of like, okay, I knew what I was doing. That's cool. Yeah. So probably the counting challenge. That was fun.
What was a favorite moment at camp for you?
Oh, favorite moment at camp for me was the us coming up with the tribal idol's name. It was a multi-step process, but eventually it came out. So Trav could not get our tribe's name right. So at one point he said, what are we, Kuntuna? And we're like, Kuntuna? And we're like, oh, she's serving cunt, she's serving fish. That's what we started saying. And then someone, I think it was maybe Sam, said Kuntuna Marie. And then I was like, Kuntuna Marie the Third. And then we kept adding on to it. And the final name was Kuntuna Marie the Third from the House of Kanane. So she was basically a drag persona. And she was a diva. So that's how, that was probably that one. Or the BLT's Bacon, Lettuce, and Toes. Because Sam was talking about making sandwiches with her feet on OnlyFans to make money.
Yeah, there was a lot of weird feet content from your tribe, I remember.
You can thank Sam for that, and you can bring that up to her tomorrow.
Okay, good. I'll remember that. What percent of the jar of candy did you eat? Did you personally eat?
I think Sam. Oh, actually, no. I was gonna say Sam probably ate the most, but because I stayed there longer, I probably maybe caught up to her. Initially, Sam probably was eating the most, and then me, and then Lachey, then Brandon, because I think Brandon, with his whole dehydration and everything like that, I think his stomach was he was a little nervous. So it was probably me or Sam. We were probably eating most of it for sure.
Would you change who you gave the candy to?
Ooh, honestly, yeah, I think I would. I think I would probably give it to Geraldine, Geraldine Lachey, and then yeah, I honestly probably would just swap out Sam for Geraldine, probably.
Who do you wish you had a chance to work with, but didn't have an opportunity to do so in the game?
From either side?
Either side.
Ooh, I've said this before. I've said it, Aliana. I've said that. I definitely really, really wanted to work with her. I feel like if the whole Trav and Lachey thing didn't happen, I really wanted to work with Trav. And then maybe another person from Orange, I would say Colby.
Besides yourself, who would you like to see come back and play another season of Reelfoot?
Ooh, I keep saying Aliana. So if not Aliana, I love the girl. Who would I want to see? Geraldine. I think she just rocked it on her first game ever, and I'm so proud of her. Like she just watching her growth from like day 1 to day 7, just a rock star.
Isiah, thank you so much for your time tonight. I'm sorry that we didn't set a record, but I think we can both live with that.
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's okay. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with 2.5 hours. That's fine.
If you ever feel the need to come back on the record and say more, just let me know. I'd be happy to host you again.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Thank you, Evan, for tuning in. This has been another episode of the Live Rally Game Podcast. We're kind of at the tail end of Reelfoot interviews. I have 2 left. Tomorrow morning, I'll be talking with Sam. I'm sure we'll talk about feet, I guess. And then on Friday, we'll wrap things up with Deb. She'll have the final say on the season.
Wow, crazy. Oh my God. Yeah. All right.
So Isiah, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a great rest of your evening.
Bye, guys.